Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Tsunade makes Naruto his successor of Konoha part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. 10 years ago a battle took place inside the Hidden Leaf village. Between the Hokage, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi Theory Ninja forces against the Riming Akatsuki members. None would forget that day. Pain and his other bodies were decimated in the attack, as was his associate Konan. Kisame Hoshigaki was beheaded by his own sword during the fight. Madara Uchiha fled, leaving behind Team Taka. The only one who didn't manage to escape from Konoha with them was Madara's descendant, Sasuke Uchiha. The Council of Konohagakure acted immediately. The head of the secret Anbu division, Root Danzo, proposed that the Uchiha be pardoned from past crimes, being forced into them by the curse seal, Orochimaru, his unstable mind put onto him by his brother Itachi, and of course, who could forget that it was Naruto Uzumaki who the majority of the blame was shifted onto. The charge was that he had driven away the Uchiha with his demonic presence. The civilian council were eating out of the palm of his hand. They instantly agreed to these, opting to banish the Uzumaki boy and to welcome their beloved Uchiha back with open arms. The Ninja Council and the clan heads were less than impressed with their blindness and stupidity, claiming that the Uchiha was unstable and would soon kill them if they did not execute him. This was ignored by the civilian council who granted amnesty to Sasuke. But Naruto faced the worst of it. The civilian council made up the majority of the council of Konoha. The clan heads could do nothing as the blind fools signed the document claiming Naruto was to blame. But what they were able to stop was the execution document. Danzo was furious when his plans were foiled by the meddlesome Hokage and her advisors, who found a loophole in all this chaos. Naruto could not be executed by the power of civilians as he was a ninja. As his ninja license was not yet revoked, they could not kill the boy. The civilian council moved quickly to have the boy's ninja license revoked officially before they claimed rightful justice from the boy. However, the ninjas were masters of deception and granted Naruto a new license as soon as his old one was voided. The political battle raged on for weeks before a trial was held. It was biased from the beginning. The civilian council made up the jury who all insisted that Naruto was guilty from the start. They were lucky to get that far. Thankfully Naruto's luck was the stuff of legends and Tsunade was the one to decide the sentence. She could not give him community service and the only thing that she was allowed to do, short of killing him, was the one thing which would destroy him. Banishment. That same day Naruto Uzumaki packed up his things, kicked out of the village, and escorted to the border of Fire Country. His apartment complex was almost burned down, but remained in one piece thanks to the efforts of one Rock Lee, who happened to be training through the village by carrying a tank of water on his back. It was times like these when people were grateful to Guy's teachings and ridiculous training methods. The council soon demanded a new generation of Sannin. Naturally those taught by Sannin were chosen. Sasuke Uchiha as the new Snake Sannin. Sakura Haruno as the new Slug Sannin. But Jiraiya hadn't passed on the Toad contract before he died. The last person with their names signed on that scroll was Naruto Uzumaki. Without it then the Sannin were not the Sannin. Densetsu Ninin is more like it. The council organized a retrieval team to catch up with Naruto Uzumaki. The ninjas to have him as the new Sannin, the civilians to force him to give the summoning contract to a ninja of their choosing. 10 years on and the village hidden in the leaves has become dull and pressing. Not even Konohamaru or Guy and Lee could bring the sun back to Konoha. It was incredibly strange. There were more clouds above Konoha lately, blocking more and more sunlight and hardly ever raining. It was mostly thanks to Suiton Jutsus that the plants kept gaining water, otherwise there would be less and less plants. It was as if someone had put a curse on the village. 10 years on and Konoha is dragged into a war with Iwa and Kumo. Its only allies, sand, star, birds, moon, waterfall, snow, and wave, which had become a ninja village very recently, seemed rather cold with them since the banishment of Naruto. It was no secret that their countries were better off because of him. The Kazekage was now sane and enjoyed life rather than enjoy and killing. The village of Waterfall found Naruto's absence disturbing, insisting that it had been a curse for him to leave. Most of them were highly superstitious. Snow was cold, figuratively speaking, since their daimyo favored the blonde. Birds was grateful for their release from an evil manipulator. Their daimyo was exceptionally disappointed. Star still remembered when Naruto fought with the spirit of one of their own to destroy the star which was slowly killing their children. Moon was offended as their king and crown prince were good friends with Naruto, and Wave was the worst. They specialized in tsunami and their own branch of Suiton Jutsus, developed by their appointed Shadame Namikaze as they called him. He was barely into his 20s and was the most powerful of them all. Guess who? And considered it an insult that Naruto was no longer a member of Leaf. Aim had recoiled back into their hole to hide from all ever since Pain was killed in battle. Kus had joined forces with Odo, and both had gone on to join in the war with Iwa and Kumo as allies. Kurigakure no Sato remained neutral in the entire thing, only recently getting over the civil war and the end of the blood purges. The new Mizukage had recently put in place and was keen on becoming allies with Wave, but demanded amnesty and neutral ground in the war against the 4 hidden villages. Suddenly Konoha seemed small, insignificant and worst of all, it only had enough strength to face half of a hidden village, with no more Uchiha, Jinchuriki or Yondaime to help them. 10 years later, the young man yawned from retracting fatigue, stretching his arms and muscles out to give way to the cricks and cracks his bones made when he snapped them into place. Sunlight streamed across his face and cascading down his elegant locks of golden blonde. His blonde hair currently fell down his face and obstructed the view of his eyes and facial features. He stood up and pulled a mirror out of the bag which lay next to him on the ground. Digging a hand in his pockets he found a rubber black band which would be perfect enough. Enlarging the mirror with a jutsu, the man placed it down on a tree stump, using the back of the mirror as a stand. He stared into the mirror and pulled back his hair high on top of his head. It looked like a regular ninja ponytail well enough, especially when it was tied back. It spiked and stuck up toyfully, think Haruka's ninja ponytail. He placed 2 small objects inside the ponytail, forcing them to click onto his hair. Looking into the mirror, the man marveled at his features, checking to see if anything was wrong. His eyes were crystal blue, like the waves of the ocean, just as they were crashing into the surface of the water below. His skin was tanned and beautiful, with a trio of thin black whiskers running across either cheek. His face was handsome and rigid, manly yet boyish in a certain sense. 3 stray hairs fell at the base of his neck, 2 long longs of hair dangled down, falling past and hiding his ears. He wore a simple black cloth over his forehead, a sort of design of the Western celts imprinted in red onto it, the largest of which stood in the center of the band, 3 squashed rings intertwining each other. Walking back over to his bag, he found his clothes and proceeded to change. When he was done, he was dressed in clothes fit for an assassin. A black tight long-sleeved shirt which showed off what he had underneath. He wore a pair of less tighter, but still tight black pants, which were tucked into a pair of black steel-toed boots, with the steel painted blood red. He wore a red leather jacket which folded at the arms, revealing the light red UNDERCOAT0, showing his well-toned forearm muscles under the tight black shirt. He wore a pair of red fingerless gloves with black metal plate knuckles. On the back of his jacket was the kanji for Inari, the goddess of foxes and of rice. The bag was just a small backpack, with the name and warning of Naruto Uzumaki. "Keep away." Printed across in bold. And Angry Fox had finished off the design of the bag, which was a neon orange and black in color. It was almost blinding. The man suddenly realized something. There was no sign of his companion. He cupped his hands to his mouth and called out, "Hey Chiban, are you out there?" No one responded back. "Hey kid, you alright? Can you hear me?" This time a response was given. "I can hear you, Tao-san. I've been hearing you snore from all the way down by the river. That's a real problem, you know. People might think that there's a monster in whichever wood or forest we're staying in," complained a child's voice. Naruto smiled in relief when he saw the little guy walking through the tree path towards the older blonde. Like his Tsunade, he had blonde hair, only his was marred by a pair of scarlet red bangs, an obnoxious shade of scarlet I might add. His hair was too pulled up into a ninja ponytail, the red bangs acting as 2 red streaks going through his head and spurting out of the elastic band of the ponytail. They sort of resembled stubbly horns. His face was cute and babyish, probably due to the fact that he was merely 5 years old. His eyes were the same as his father, blue like waves about to crash onto the surface of the water. He had a cute button nose, and instead of whiskers, he adorned a triad of black dots on each cheek, like little freckles. The child wore black bib and brace overalls and a red t-shirt. The kanji of Inari was either sewn or printed in red onto the front pocket of his dungaree. The braces had little red smiley face for buttons and a pair of red child's tennis shoes. "Tsunade got the water and caught the fish," the child informed him. "Did you use Auntie Kayu's gift?" The man known as Naruto asked the little guy. The small boy brightened. "Hi. Auntie Kayu was really nice to give me that," the child informed him. He pulled out the gift from behind his back. It would have looked like a regular soccer ball, round and bouncy, had it not had the image of an orange fox's head with a hardwire aerial and a fuzzy white thing atop of it. "IUBP is really handy too, San, he can change into anything. He was a fishing rod for me and he used Katra to catch the fish." "Takra," Kid Naruto corrected. "Hi," the little boy explained. "Haku?" Naruto asked the little guy, referring to his middle name, which he usually went by. "Hi." The little boy asked, looking up at his father's face. "Where are the fish and water then?" The child blanched and went wide-eyed when he realized that he had left them back at the river. "Tsunade, I left them at the river cause you called me." Naruto sighed before giving a caring smile. "Yep, you are definitely my son," Kid Haku, as the boy was called, pouted. "As if you ever doubted it. But maybe we aren't, and my real Tsunade was just like that, but only more reliable, better looking and could kick everyone's asses to kingdom come." Naruto's eyebrow twitched. Haku, what have I told you about swearing? The young boy looked at him then went into a thinking pose. He tapped his index finger on his lips whilst gazing away into the oblivion of the sky above. Here the child turned to Naruto and gave him a foxy grin. Swear like a sailor, kick the ass of anyone who tells you off for it. Naruto smiled. I have trained you well. The father and son duo packed up their belongings and stored them into storage seals, which were easily enough hidden in the small backpacks. Don't forget the fish, Naruto warned. The Hokage of Konohagakure stood before the new version of the Konoha 11, the Konoha 12. Added with Sasuke Uchiha and Sai, but without Naruto Uzumaki, one of the originals. The senseis of the four teams, Kakashi Haddock, Yamato, Kurenai Yuhi and Might Guy, stoof in attendance to the Hokage, who hide behind her Jinjutsu. Her two advisors, who are now entering their early 80s, stood either side of her. Hamura and Kaharu glared down at the Uchiha boy, who acted as if he had better things to do than hang around here. Tsunade folded her arms and leaned against the front of her desk. Sakura and Sasuke stood apart from one another, on either side of the room, divided by the other ninja, just as Sakura wanted. Each ninja in the room held looks of either excitement, confusion or anticipation. Finally Tsunade creased her brow and opened her brown eyes in earnest. Now was the time to make her announcement. As you all know, she began, next year I am retiring. In that time I need to train a ninja who will become my successor, and the Rakudame Hokage. Her announcement was met with silence. The one thought that ran through everyone else's minds was the same thing. She's going to pick Sasuke or Sakura. Kakashi will deny the job. It's gonna be those two as candidates. However, Tsunade continued, causing everyone to subconsciously lean forward. The one person I desire as Hokage could not be considered as a candidate. With the war fast approaching, we need this person as Hokage. The council has grown so that ninjas heavily outweigh the civilian council. As such, there is a certain obstacle which has been removed from our way. Excuse me, Hokage-sama. Sakura began, bewildered. What does this have to do with us? Tsunade looked at her successor in the ways of the slug Sannin and smiled evilly. Well, the lot of you are going to go get him and drag his sorry ass back here to leave. A sneaking suspicion drove into Niji's mind at what the Hokage was implying. Behind his mask, Kakashi gave a grin, knowing full well who the Hokage had in mind. You are to find and escort back to the village the official second-generation Toad Sannin, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, for him to accept the title of Rakudame Hokage. A shiver ran up Naruto's spine and his entire body vibrated fearfully. Haku looked up at his father with Kyuubi secure in his arms. A question mark flew through his brain. Tosan, why did you just shiver like that? He asked his father, who seemed to have frozen in place. I don't know, Naruto gasped, but if I lose in the next casino, then that's a sign that something bad is about to happen to us. Haku rolled his eyes at his father. Geez, Tosan, those signs of impending doom really make you sound like a sore loser, the child informed him. Naruto would have usually growled in response to this, but he could not shake the feeling of dread which had crawled up his back and had moved forwards to situate itself in his stomach. Something bad was going to happen very soon. Sakura Haruno, the Neo-Slug Sannin, stood in her bedroom of the apartment which had once been Naruto's. Tsunade had had it converted to a mansion of sorts for the Konoha 12. The Konoha 12 had become an official organization within Konoha which worked under the Hokage. Instead of academy teachers choosing the genin teams, the entire Konoha 12 did that, taking in abilities and feelings for consideration. When the Konoha 12 were ready to retire, or should any group leave the organization, then one batch of academy graduates who were 12 in number and had equal qualification, then they would replace the Konoha 12 with a new generation. One of these teams would be trained by a Sannin, and that team would secretly be put forward as candidates of the Sannin, who were the leading power of the Konoha 12. Out of the entire Konoha ninja populace, it was expected that someone within the family tree of ninja training was expected to be a candidate of Hokage. The Shodan trained his brother, the Nidaime, who trained Sarutobi, who in turn trained Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru. Orochimaru trained Anko, Mizuki and Kurenai, Tsunade trained Shizune, Jiraiya trained Minato, Fugaku and Hiashi. Minato was the only one to take a genin squad from Jiraiya's branch, as Kurenai did the same from Orochimaru's branch. Minato trained Obito, Rin and Kakashi. Kakashi trained Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura. Kurenai trained Hinata, Shino and Kiba. If you think of it as a family tree, it begins to make sense. Out of all those, they were the most expected to be a Hokage candidate. It was like a bloodline, only it was transferred through to genin from their jounin teacher who were in the line. It is sometimes called the Hokage line. Sakura spent a good few hours drawing that up for an April Fool's joke, and a pretty poor one at that. Sakura admitted to leaving the pranking to Naruto until Tsunade saw it, put it all together in her head, then made it the official Hokage line, saying that it was an in-line, an opposite of a bloodline. The cycle would only be cut if someone else tried for Hokage. A lot of people suspected the Hokage to be severely intoxicated that day from needing a break from Konohamaru's tricks. Enough about Konoha cage politics. Sakura sighed and looked over to the photos on the wall. The old Genin team photo hung proudly, yet dusty, about 13 years after it had been taken. Next to it hung another picture of Yamato, Sakura, Sai and Naruto. Next to that was one of them with Sasuke and Kakashi this time. Finally there was their official one of them without Naruto. Pictures were otherwise scarce in the room. Sakura had kept them all safe and hidden. Her bedroom was covered in red wallpaper and pink cherry blossoms. Red carpet and pink bed covers. The cabinets and drawers were otherwise brown and made of oak. A bookcase filled to the last centimeter with books occupied the wall across from the window. Sakura finished packing her bags and opened the door to find the rest of the retrieval team there waiting for her. Sasuke took position as leader and commanded them to move out. Right then. Move out. We need to get that loser. Sakura glared angrily at Sasuke. He had been a real jerk for a while now, but he tried to be nice. But ever since Tsunade announced it was Naruto he had gone back to his foul-tempered old self. It was probably because Naruto was the reason why Sasuke could now never leave the village without the Hokages say so. It was a terrifying concept. Especially when Sakura was the one to monitor the reason at all of Sasuke's routine checkups. She was also given control of it whenever they went on a mission together. She was the only one who could control him now. 16 ninja rushed through the streets of Konoha at top speed, rushing through the gates at top speed. The last bit of information Tsunade had on Naruto was that he had been seen in Demon Country a week ago and was heading westward to Waterfall Country. Estimated time of arrival: 3 days. 2 weeks later, Tsunade bellowed at his father as they finally made it to the town in Taki, no Kuni they were trying to get to for the past 2 weeks. Whenever you say, let's go sightseeing in Demon Country, I thought you meant look at a couple of sites then leave, not spend the better half of 2 weeks there. The loudmouth kid received a bonk to the head off his father. You're kinda loud and uptight for a 5-year-old, chibi me. Will you stop calling me that? When you make your first kill and have your first shot of sake with your old man. So a couple more years then. As long as I can get it. Naruto walked with Haku on his shoulders, one hand tightly clasping his father's ponytail, the other holding on to Kyubi so as no to assert suspicion from other travelers. It's not every day that you see a little kid with a floating fox head following him everywhere, like some puppy. Tsunade, can we get some Pocky? The small boy asked his father. Naruto gave up with a smile. Sure, then we'll go fishing. As they walked down the street they failed to notice the 3 ninjas sitting in front of a cafe drinking coffee. Neji Hyuga followed the pair down the street with a look of regret on his face. That guy is lucky to have that child, he thought to himself. A thought suddenly occurred to him. So Tenten, when are you and Lee going to try for a child? He asked her jokingly. The weapons mistress shivered all over from that statement. Neji smirked at her. Afraid to have children with big eyebrows and the power of youth running around everywhere you go. Neji joked, indicating to his old teammate and Tenten's husband Rock Lee. Tenten shivered. Don't make me think about it. I love Lee, but I really don't want my kids running around in green spandex. Sasuke, who had joined their group, nodded with a sneer. Well, unlike you two, I have to have kids. Probably 10 at the most before I die. 10? Wow, you are either brave or really stupid. Unless your wife has most of those at once, you'll never reach that number. No one I know would let their husband touch them if they had so many children. The best you can get is 5, 6 if you're lucky. Unless the council grant you harem rights. Neji decided his input was needed. The civilian council probably will push for that. Remember, they control the number of civilians who go into the ninja forces in the first place. They could use that as blackmail to get more Sharingans. The council is getting too full of themselves lately. They never would have done this 10 years ago. They'd be too scared. The last time they showed backbone was with Naruto, and now look at their plan. All washed up and we have to go pick him up somewhere. Mark my words, Sasuke, that plan of theirs will go south, Tenten warned him. Neji snorted. Mark my words. Tenten, when did you become a batty old gossip? It took all of Tenten's inner strength not to throw a kunai at him. Unfortunately, that inner strength wasn't enough, and Neji soon found himself nearly impaled by the Queen of Steel, as she was known throughout Konoha and in the bingo books for Iowa. What about you, Neji? She asked. You thinking about getting married anytime soon? I know we're 26 and all, and not even Kakashi had his kid at our age, but he was a genius. We're not up to his standards. When are you gonna get laid? Tenten, Sasuke warned. We're in a crowd. Tenten blushed, looking around before returning her sights on to Neji. There's gotta be someone you like. I'm surprised you haven't been pushed into an arranged marriage, yet Neji sighed. He sipped his coffee before replying, I refuse them all. I prefer to marry on my own free will, and to answer your question, I have taken part in the act of sexual intercourse. Tenten turned an interesting shade of red at Neji's bluntness. Really? Who? Were they any good? She immediately asked him, interested. Neji? Sasuke spoke, the fellow Dijutsu user. What's brought this on? He asked. Neji pointed in the direction that Naruto and his son had just gone. Did you see those two, the blonde pair, the father and son? Sasuke nodded whilst Tenten looked on dreamingly. Oh yeah. They were cute. Especially the kid. I know I'm sort of against the whole imitating your father figure thing, but hey, seeing a little boy like that was really cute. The father is so young looking as well, he could pass as his older brother. What about them? Sasuke asked. I felt jealous was the Hyuga boy's reply. Tenten snorted into her tea. You jealous? Call the newspapers. Niji Hyuga, Mr. My life is alright the way it is jealous of a father and son pair. I thought your only jealousy was towards the main Hyuga branch, and even then it's rather lax and hasn't reared its ugly head for a couple of years now. Leave him alone, Tenten, Sasuke told her. But hello my youthful companions and beautiful wife. How was your morning? The loud and happy spandex-clad ninja known as Rock Lee cried out to them as he ran forward. Hello Lee, Sasuke and Niji replied in a regular bored drawl. Tenten sighed before replying to her husband. So Lee, how was your jog around the village? And please don't scream it, she begged. Lee calmed down before replying to his wife. It was glorious, Tenten. I wish you would join me sometime. Like that'll ever happen, the three thought at once. Anyway, my friends, I have heard interesting news about our dear friend Naruto. The other three perked up and looked at Lee with harsh stares. What news, Lee? Sasuke asked with a growl. The green-clad Jounin gulped before replying. Well, Sasuke-kun, there have been most frightful rumors about Naruto-kun floating around. Tenten grew a tick on her forehead. Well, what is it, Lee? Tell us and maybe we can go tell the others in the other towns. Well, they say he is number 2 in the bingo book now. Lee, we already knew that, and that he has an accomplice. A teenage boy, some say. The boy is said to be a ruthless killer, tainted by demonic chakra. It is said that Naruto-kun watched happily as this teenager killed an entire Iwa base with just a small pack of senbon needles. Naruto is said to now be a masochist and a sadist. I am afraid we may be too late in saving him from his unyouthfulness, my fellow Leaf Nin. Niji and Tenten turned to Sasuke in worry. His eyes were wide in shock as he bit down on his thumb. Lee, he finally spoke. Did anyone say where Naruto was headed? The large-eyebrowed ninja stood straight instantly. That was what I wanted to tell you. When I was heading over here I smelt a familiar scent. I have trained with Kakashi-senpai's Ninkin, so my sense of smell is better. I smelled Naruto and his colleague entering town just a few minutes ago, but no one has entered the town ever since we've been here, Tenten urged. Except Niji stated, causing the other two who had been in the cafe with him to widen their eyes in shock. That father and son weren't really father and son. It was Naruto and his accomplice, under Henge. Without Niji's Byakugan he didn't see it and Sasuke was brooding as usual. They're in this town. The bun-headed girl exclaimed as the other two stood up, leaving some money behind. We've got to hurry, Sasuke said to them as they rushed from the cafe. Tsunade, why did we leave so suddenly? Haku asked his father as they ran along the road leading to the next village. Naruto held on tighter to Haku's legs as he pushed with all his strength. The Pocky festival is tomorrow in a village a couple of kilometers away. We can't miss it. The blonde yelled, jumping on tree branches. What are you waiting for, man? Haku raged at his father. Step on it. The father and son duo ran, well in Haku's case rode, away from the small village they had just occupied for a couple of minutes. Passing by weary travelers became a common occurrence to them as they shot past farmers and carriage drivers. No one paid them any heed as they were too fast to be thought of something any more than a gust of wind. The blondes leapt past the odd escaped livestock to reach the town where the Pocky festival would be held. Tsunade? Haku asked his father as the grown man left an imprint of his boot on a cow's backside. Naruto replied, signifying that he was listening to the child. When are we going to see Kasan? The child asked. Auntie Kyubi isn't far from there either, we could stop by just after the festival. It is your birthday in a couple of days, and Kasan would probably want to give you your presents. Naruto looked solemn before brightening and quickening his pace. I think it's a great idea, Chibunara, Naruto replied to his son. It would give them both an excuse to visit Isaribi and for Aunt Kyubi to see his godson. October 10th was the time of year when Naruto Uzumaki and his son Naruto Chibunara Haku Uzumaki were found in Sea Country on Demon Island, paying their respects to the most important woman in both men's lives. Isaribi Uzumaki was spirited away by Orochimaru of the Sannin and experimented on with the help of his lackey. They caused her to become a mutated demon fish and had her wreak havoc across the Sea Country, stealing important cargo and leaving many to their untimely deaths. It wasn't until Naruto, Ino, Shino and Anko came along then all that changed. Isaribi met a boy who cared about her, who could share in her pain, and who could see her for what she really was. A person. When she returned with them to Konoha, Tsunade was unable to cure her of her afflicted condition. Isaribi remained in Konoha for a couple of years before Naruto was banished. She left Konoha with him, where they made their way to Yumi no Kuni. There Naruto and Isaribi made a home on Demon Island and fell in love. The wedding was a private ceremony issued by a friend of Naruto's. Sora from the Great Fire Temple brought his master in the guise of a vacation. It was a month after Naruto's 18th birthday. By that time Isaribi was pregnant with little Naruto. The two settled down in their home and remained there. When Shibaneru was born 9 months later, people on the mainland could have sworn that there were red fireworks, the shape of multi-tailed foxes shooting up into the air. But then everything went wrong. Due to her mutation, which she thankfully didn't pass on to her son, other than the ability to breathe underwater, Isaribi fell terminally ill with some unknown disease which affected fish. Naruto did the best he could for her, but they couldn't afford a medic, and it was tragic that Isaribi passed away. She was buried in the family's front garden, right before her house. The mound was raised and a rock was Rasengan-ed, so it could be used for her headstone. It was on that day that the two left, promising to return to Demon Island 7 times a year, on the birthdays of Naruto, Chibineru and Isaribi herself, on Mother's Day, Christmas, on the anniversary of their wedding and on the anniversary of her death. Haku was only 3 when his mother died. He didn't know much about her, but he was always told by Naruto that he inherited her intelligence and knowledge of all things that belonged in the deep. Naruto knelt down in front of the headstone in their old front garden. Earlier he had refreshed the names and dates on the rock with his improved version of the Rasengan. A bed of flowers covered the whole garden with the rose bed over Isaribi's grave. Haku knelt next to him and put his hands into a prayer formation. Naruto turned his legs so one was leaning, the other was kneeling. They both prayed for 5 minutes before Naruto plucked a white rose from the grave. "You've outdone yourself this year, my love," he told the grave head. "The white ones look even whiter than the moon. What's your secret?" Haku giggled at his father's antics with the talk with his late bride. "Tsunade, Ka-san couldn't do any of it. She's underground." Naruto smiled at his son. "Who do you think supplies the chakra for these flowers?" "Ka-san's spirit sends chakra to them for us." Though Haku believed as he once again returned to his prayers. Naruto smiled at childhood naiveness. It would be a long time before Haku lost any of that. He smiled, continued before tucking the white rose into one of the pockets of his jackets, proudly displaying it for the world to see. "Come on Haku, time to go. The country's having a gambling celebration and there's these new boots in Demon which I've had my eye on for quite some time." "Hi Tsunade." The little boy replied before kissing the stone which held his mother's name. "Bye Ka-san," he said before bounding off through the garden. Naruto's head returned to the headstone. He put his fingers to his lips and kissed them before placing it on the stone just centimeters away from where Haku had just kissed the rock. "I've gotta teach that kid not to kiss rocks. We'll see you in a month, love." Then he too left the garden and followed Haku down to the beach. Sakura stared wide-eyed at Sasuke, Tenten, Lee and Neji as they accounted what they had seen. "Naruto with a ponytail?" she asked. Tenten nodded. He looked like Iruka-sensei with the color scheme of Deidara and whisker marks. But the baby was so cute. He must have been, what? 5. 4 years old. But obviously it was a henge, but it was so cute. Neji sweat dropped before talking Tenten. "That's enough. You can henge Lee into that child form later when we have Naruto in our custody. You make him sound like a criminal." Ino complained to the static Hyuga boy or man. "Well, Lee began, technically Naruto-kun is a criminal. His flames of youth have diminished into the horrible ways of sadism and masochistism." Shikamaru shot a disbelieving look at Lee. "Ah, this is Naruto we're talking about. Mr. Troublesome Blonde with a Sujiri attitude. There's no way Naruto would do something like that." Chaoji nodded in his agreement with Shikamaru. "The day Naruto does something like that is the day he gives up ramen." Kakashi sweat dropped and nodded in his response. "Lee, your information might be a tad bit unreliable. Naruto may have an accomplice, but for Naruto to go like that it would take something like the Kyuubi taking control over him for that to happen," Kiba told him. When Naruto was first banished the day that it was announced, the news of Naruto being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki spread through Konoha like wildfire. It was now common knowledge that the Kyuubi vessel had been living amongst them for 15 years. Some were repulsed, some felt cheated and others didn't care because they knew Naruto well and knew he wasn't the sort of person who could be a demon. The Konoha 12 were among the supporters of Naruto, refusing to believe he was any sort of monster. Of course Sakura, Sasuke, Sai and Shikamaru already knew they were his teammates and Shikamaru had figured it out years before it was revealed. "There's got to be another explanation." Shino's usual monotone sounded throughout the Konoha 12. Could Naruto really be like that? No question about it. Lee had to have been misinformed. So where could he be? Hinata asked her fellow ninja. Sai gave off a sigh. "My informants have told me that he was recently seen in the land of the sea. Locals have overheard him saying to his accomplice, still under the disguise of a child, they were going to the land of tea for a gambling tournament, then he would be returning to Yumi no Kuni in 1 month's time. That's all I could dig up on him." Yamato nodded at his pupil. Sakura formed a plan in her head quickly before ordering the others. "Half of us will go to Yumi no Kuni and wait while the other half go to the land of tea for this gambling holiday. Sasuke, you'll take Neji, Tenten, Lee, Kiba, Kakashi, Guy and Shino. Hinata, Ino, Shikamaru, Chaoji, Sai, Kurenai and Yamato, you'll be with me and Yumi. If Naruto slips by Sasuke's group, we'll need a way to catch him in a month's time when he returns to Yumi. If you do catch him in T, then send word to us. Niji, you'll be their team mednin. Kiba will be tracker, Kakashi, they'll need your dogs, Guy, and Lee's speed will be good. If you do run into Naruto, Shino will use his bugs on him. Tenten will be good for containing him with her weapons. Do you really think that'll work? It will seriously cut down on our number and it'll work, Sasuke. If we're lucky, Naruto will come with us willingly and we won't need to use force. When he hears about being the Rakudame, he'll jump at the chance. One could not disagree with Sakura's logic when it came to Naruto. She was probably the one who knew him best. But Sakura, what about your team? What is its function? Shino asked the Neo Slug Sannin. Shikamaru will hold him in place, then we'll use Hinata and myself as emotional blackmail. Between the two of us he'll come with us willingly. Kurenai will use Genjutsu on him, that's his worst area, he won't recognize it. Then Ino will use her mind arts to trick him into increasing guilt, then Chaoji and Sai will be used to talk to him and convince him. If worst comes to worst, we'll blackmail him with Raymond. So an attack team and a team which uses techniques from the interrogation department to guilt trip Naruto. But why Yamato Sakura? Kakashi asked her. The pink-haired Kunoichi shivered slightly. Incus the Kyuubi is used by Naruto. He'll probably still wear the necklace, and Yamato will be used to subdue him. Cleverino praised her old friend. Come on now. Team Serpent doesn't have long to get to T country. Team Snail will follow me to C. Serpent, Snail. Well, I couldn't use Snake for Sasuke's team, and it'd be fair to use a relative of my summons as a name. Well, bored bro. Ino insulted. I can't believe the gambling tournament was cancelled, Chibineru complained to his father as they walked away dejectedly. You could have let your hair down too, San, then they wouldn't have recognized you, Naruto growled angrily. I can't help it that I'm unnaturally lucky, especially with money and gambling. Yeah, but you might want to use Henge next time. So sue me, kid. Pant. You're my father. What do you mean he never showed up? Sakura bellowed at Lee. The azure beast of Konoha whimpered under the gaze of the Sakura no Oni, as she was known to other countries due to her anger and demonic-like temper. Well, we attended the tournament like you told us to, Sakura-chan. But due to our unyouthful fortune, we were all beaten out by the 5th round. We asked the gate guards and they told us they had been afraid that he would cause an unyouthful disturbance and so told Naruto-kun that the tournament had been cancelled. But do not fear. My other comrades and blossomed wife are chasing after Naruto as we speak. Lee, I suggest you go away no before I use you as a pummeling tool. The big eyebrow Taijutsu user ran away from Sakura, who turned towards Ino and Shikamaru, who sat on a park bench. Where is Sai? I need to hit something, she asked them. Hey. Ino protested. Stay away from my husband, billboard brow. I still need him to make me a mother. You can kill him when I have 5 kids all at Jounin rank. The pink-haired Sannin growled and begun to punch the tree beside the bench with her fists of fury. She really needs to take anger management courses, Ino said, leaning back into the bench. This is anger management. Ino gave a long-winded sigh and complained again. I should have known. Sakura will always take the more violent path given to her. Troublesome, Shika. HN. Ino looked at her old teammate with a furrowed brow. Have you spoken to any of the locals yet? I've been looking for my friend Isaribi, but I can't find her. Did you make any leeway with your search? Isaribi? Shikamaru asked, confused at her question. Remember my mission to Yumi? Well, Isaribi was this girl we met. She had been kidnapped by Orochimaru and mutated by tests done by one of his research partners. She was part fish because of it. She was forced to steal stuff from ships, taking valuable object and money to the land of water to pay for their protection. Me, Shino and Naruto came here with Anko-sensei. Isaribi helped us out in destroying the base and freeing the others. She came with us to Konoha for Tsunade Sama to heal her, but the damage was too much. Isaribi left Konoha to return here when Pain was defeated. Did you say Naruto came here with her? Shikamaru asked, narrowing his eyes. I remember that mission. You guys came back with her. She studied under Tsunade Sama for a time. I think she still lives around here somewhere, Sakura butted in. Ino looked up and nodded. Yeah, but the problem is I haven't been able to find her. Not here, on at her shack down by the cove. Shikamaru suddenly stood up, letting a cigarette drop from his mouth. If we find her, she might have some clue about Naruto. Ino, Sakura. Asked around. See if anyone has seen Isaribi with a young man with blonde hair and whisker marks in the last 10 years. Shika. Ino began before Shikamaru took off running. That's probably the fastest you'll ever see him go, and even that's low, Ino commented at the pace Shikamaru took off running, which was little more than a jog. Pathetic. He does have a point, the pink-haired Sannin told her friend. Go ask around. Surely you know some people here and some will remember you. Go around asking and we'll probably find some answers. For the next 3 hours, Sakura and Ino scoured the town asking questions about them. The results of their search were pitiful at best. When they met up with Shikamaru again at the harbor at sunset, they had very little to report back. It's a no-go, Ino told him. No one has seen Isaribi in the last 2 years. They have seen Naruto coming and going on the same dates every year. Once on his birthday, another on Isaribi's and then 5 more times. Some people said they saw people from the fire temple here once 5 years ago, Sakura added. I asked around as well. Shikamaru stated they said that Isaribi and a blonde man lived out in a house on Demon Island. About 5 years ago they came round with a pair of monks and there was apparently a fireworks show with multi-tailed foxes, once in November another in February. Then 2 years ago Isaribi disappeared completely and that man comes by only 7 times a year on the same dates and leaves as soon as he returns from Demon Island. February 13, November 5, October 10, July 3, December 25, May 11, and Mother's Day. He always brings along the guy in the child henge. So we go to Demon Island and scope things out. Hinata asked as she walked up behind Shikamaru, with Chaoji at her side. I agree, Sai said, appearing through ink shushin between them and a box. We should go there and look for any clues. Ino nodded at her husband. Some people have said that up till May 11 2 years ago, smoke rose from a chimney on some sort of shack on the island. So do we leave now? Someone should stay behind to tell Lee where the rest of us have gone. I'll stay, Sai said, my ink will be useless on these waters anyway, so I trust you'll be fine. He asked Ino, putting a loving hand on her shoulder. The blonde girl smiled, nodded and pecked a kiss on Sai's cheek. Be careful, Sai, she told him. The pale man smiled sweetly before replying you two to his wife. Half an hour later found the Konoha ninja, minus Sai running on the water to Demon Island. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was once a powerful demon lord who devoured the souls and bodies of whomever opposed his mighty power. He was said to have created tidal waves and raised mountains with just one swipe of one of his 9 ferocious and strong demon tails. Until Minato Namikaze and Naruto Uzumaki. Beyond aim Hokage, Minato Namikaze used a forbidden jutsu to seal the great demon into his prison within the stomach of one Naruto Uzumaki. For 17 years the Kyuubi remained under lock and key, with his jailer only visiting him once or twice for the power needed to destroy his enemies. When the boy had been banished, the Kyuubi had begun to form a sort of bond with his jail cell. On the 18th birthday of Naruto Uzumaki, the Kyuubi was given a choice. Remain trapped within the seal for all eternity, cursed to rot and die in the bowels of the human boy, or be given a living body by a special type of clone jutsu, with his powers decreased exponentially and without any of his great demonic powers, with the lifespan of a human. Such a thing would be ludicrous for a demon to think of. But the Kyuubi craved freedom and so was given a human body. The clone was given the appearance of Minato Namikaze, but when Kyuubi entered the body, it donned blood-red hair, red eyes, like fire, and 3 whisker marks on either cheek. Naruto compared him as his big brother. The Kyuubi was now living near Yumi no Kuni, on a farm where he used chakra and jutsus to control his crops and sustain his livestock. Sheep, cows, bulls, horses and poultry. It was thanks to Naruto that he was able to sustain himself on top of his income. Naruto's gambling had made him incredibly wealthy. He had also become the godfather to Haku, Naruto's now 5-year-old son. Unfortunately, the child had mistaken him for a woman for some unknown reason and had taken to calling him Auntie Kyuubi. It took all the cuteness of Haku's innocent face and self-restraint on the Kyuubi's part that he didn't try to eat the child the very first time he called him that. Now 25 years after his imprisonment, the exact date to be technical, he found himself staring at his godson and his father, the ex-Jinchuriki, who had come for a visit. Haku still carried around the transforming toy he had gifted the child with. Kyuubi pa floating fox head ball with an antenna atop of its head. Auntie, Kyu. Haku screamed as he embedded his small head into Kyuubi's stomach. The ex-demon turned man sweat dropped and gave off fake anime tears which wiggled and swayed down his cheeks. Why must you torment me like this, Haku-chan? Because it's so fun. The small child exclaimed. Auntie Kyu. Yes. Did you save me a present? He asked like a true con man. The two men fell in anime style with large sweet drips. He never changes, they both thought unanimously. It was well known in this family that Haku was a true con man, conning presents off his godfather as if he was just asking for a strand of his godfather's blood-red hair. I have a new set of kunai, just in from hell. You're lucky you're my godson. Here these things go for 1,000,000 ryo per kunai. Usually in hell they're 1 ryo. I get 'em for 25 since I invented and developed them. If you were anyone else, I'd eat you or send you packing. I see you still have that portal jutsu ready for use, Naruto commented as they made their way to the kitchen. Yeah. Hey Chibineru, Miyaka down in town backed me a big apple tart. Here's a slice on the table, mind you it's hot. Cream's in the fridge. The small child nodded in agreement, swaddled over to the plate with a delicious slice of tart, took it from the table, fork and all. Kyuubi retrieved the cream and the two scurried into the living room where Kyuubi kept his television set. A rare item in most parts of the elemental countries, but thanks to Naruto's seemingly never-ending funds, Kyuubi could afford all the TVs that he desired. Miyaka? Naruto jested. As in Tamaham's Miyaka. Yes. Tomohomo's Miyaka Kyubi growled at his ex-vessel. I swear, if that guy makes any more wisecracks about me and Noriko on our poker nights, I don't care what agreement I made with you not to start fights, I'll send him to meet the starfish at the bottom of the sea. Naruto cocked a grin at the ex-demon lord. You and Noriko, huh? I still can't believe she hangs out with you, Kyubi corrected. Huh? Noriko is a guy doofus. Nani? Naruto exclaimed, falling over and nearly smacking his face into the tiled floors. Careful, I just cleaned those, Kyubi cried at Naruto. No wonder Tama is making such a big deal out of it. Did you know? No one knew until 2 months ago. We all thought he was a woman for 10 years. I nearly had a heart attack when I found out, Naruto scoffed at the ex-demon lord. Kyubi. You can't have a heart attack because you don't have a heart. The right eye of Kyubi twitched dangerously. Hey, I love Chibineru. That means I have a heart. Naruto shook his head. Kyubi. I really meant. Literally. The clone is sustained by chakra, not by a heart. There isn't one in there at all. Then what pumps the blood? Here you go. Damn brat. Hey. A small voice sounded from inside the living room. The two men turned to see a scowling Chibineru with an upheld fork in one hand and an empty plate in the other. Crumbs and applesauce littered the place around his mouth and his cheeks. A tic was formed on his head. Keep it down. You sound like a pair of old gossiping women. Geez, he's just like Isaribi, Naruto pointed out in a hushed whisper to Kyubi. Yeah, but he eats as fast as you, and I can hear as good as you, Anti-Kyu. How dare you compare me to the likes of him? Back on Demon Island, Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Shikamaru and Choji Water walked across the vast ocean to reach their destination. Already they could see that someone had carved a staircase into the rock which led to a small cottage on flat piece of land which resided on the top of a round cliff, surrounded by rocks, to make sure nothing fell off. Within minutes the group of 5 sat and rested on the beach of Demon Island. Okay. First we rest, then we go climbing up those stairs, Ino stated as she fell flat on her butt, soaking up the last of the sun's rays. She let out her ponytail and let it fall down the back of her head. Can't we just set up camp here? We were running for hours and my chakra and nearly all out. She began to massage her feet as Shikamaru and Choji both fell down either side of her. Hinata put her hands in a familiar seal and called upon Hour's bloodline. Byakugan. Sakura turned to face the ocean, where on the other side of the water she could still make out the mainland. If this is what the view from the beaches look like, then I can't wait to hit the cliffs. This view is incredible. If Naruto really does live here, then I have to compliment his choice in views. She sat down on the sand and fell to her back. Even the sand is heavenly. You don't get sand this soft even in Suna. Shikamaru nodded in agreement, having visited Suna every other month, being Konoha's official liaison for the Sand Village, and for being the husband to the sister of the Kazukiage. He knew how soft the sand was in Suna, and this definitely was much softer than anything. Must be some sort of chakra or softening jutsu, he commented, stroking his hands in the sand dune. Sakura. Hinata's voice cried out to them all. The 4 other leaf nins turned to the once shy Hyuga heiress. The stairs are clean. They do have residue chakra on them, the only security are the booby traps that go on up the side of the cliff. I suggest we don't use those. There's an empty house up there, and there seems to be a grave of some sorts, she informed them as they turned from her towards the top of the cliff. We should go now before anyone sees us, Sakura commanded. Ino began to moan. Oh, come on board bro, let us rest for a while. Not all of us have the power of the Sannin, nor the stamina. Let us rest for a little while. Please. Fine, Sakura grunted as she bit her thumb and went through a series of hand signs. Finally, when she was done, she jabbed her bleeding thumb into her palm and slapped it to the ground. Summoning jutsu. A puff of smoke occurred and a blue slug popped into existence. How may I assist you, laddie? The slug asked graciously. Sakura petted the large slug on the head. Yuuko, can you please give us a lift up these steps? My friends are tired and we need to reach it with earnest, the pink-haired Kunoichi asked her summon. The trick with the slug summon is to always be polite and they'll do whatever you want them to do. As you wish, milady, the slug replied, keen to help her mistress. Climb on, Sakura commanded the other 4. Shikamaru, Ino, Choji and Hinata all climbed on, leaving Sakura to walk. Hey, come on board bro, you need to climb onto, Ino said to her friend. Sakura gave her friend a sly smile. No thanks. We Sannin have more stamina than you Jounin, and with her command Fuuko, with speed that can be considered amazing for a slug, they made their way uphill with Sakura sometime in front, sometimes behind to cheek for traps. At last the 5 ninja found themselves atop a cliff to a field of flowers and a medium-sized cottage in the middle. It was like something out of a storybook. The flowers looked so beautiful, especially under the radiance of the setting sun. Closer to the beach lay the headstone Hinata had spoken of earlier. If their name is written on that rock, then we'll know who lives or lived here, Hinata quirked in. Sakura and Hinata were followed by Choji and Shikamaru. None of them noticed Ino staring dreamingly at the field of flowers which surrounded her. If I find whoever grew these, remind me to hire them for my shop, she said. Ever since her parents retired to a small place in tea country the last year, Ino ran the flower shop with her husband Sai. The ex-root ninja had finally left behind the life of the social and emotional enigma and had fallen hard for Ino. Whilst juggling his career as a ninja, Sai worked as a painter and occasionally worked for the flower shop when Ino was either out with her friends or on a mission. As Sai had no last name, being an orphan and had once been a subordinate of Danzo, Sai took on Ino's last name. Ino Sakura called back to her, finally snapping the blonde out of her daze. "Yeah, billboard brow. You better come look at this." Ino made her way over to the headstone and stopped at the name carved into its cold surface. The first name of her old friend and the surname of the person they were looking for to become their Rakudame Hokage. Isaribi Uzumaki, born July 3, 3 BK. Died May 11, 23 AK. Loving wife, devoted mother, goddess of the sea. Underneath this inscription was the imprint of an impacted Rasengan. Clearly Naruto's handiwork. That inscription even looked like it had been carved in by a much smaller Rasengan. The handiwork was excellent. The images of white foxes and white whales decorated the headstone. "Isaribi is gone?" Ino asked as a tear came to her eye. "Isaribi Uzumaki?" Shikamaru stated. "You don't think Naruto married Isaribi? How? When?" Sakura asked with wide and frightful eyes. "Remember some of the villagers," Shikamaru said as he looked over to the mainland. "They said 5 years ago, on November 5th, there were these fireworks shaped like foxes, and another said in the following February. What do you bet that it was in November that they married?" "What has me confused is the devoted mother thing," Chaoji said. "Did they have a kid or something?" He all see what was going on. That child they had seen with Naruto wasn't a psychopathic teenager under the guise of a henge. He really was a child. And Naruto's son no less. Naruto is a father. Damn. He had kids before any of us, he stated as Ino smoothed the rock over with her hand. Well, considering what they both went through, they deserved some happiness, however short. And look now. The council will be happy. Their Rakudame has an heir, she said, gazing nostalgically into the headstone. However, there were 2 people in the company, the 2 other females, who felt the weight of the world at that moment. Their knight in shining armor had married and had a child with a fish girl. They had been waiting for him, and now they found he had forgotten about them. So that means that kid might have some of Kyuubi's power, Shikamaru guessed as the last rays of the fading sun set beyond the horizon. Chaoji this time spoke. "Do you think Naruto would mind if we used his house for the night?" Chaoji asked them. Back in Konohagakure about a week later, Tsunade, the Godame Hokage for Konoha, fell off her desk and joined the council members in giving large and shocked eyes at Lee's and Shikamaru's report. Kakashi, who had joined them to give an update on Team Serpent, dropped his book and let his jaw drop long enough for his mouth to slip to just a little over his lips. Shizune dropped her paperwork and Iruka's eyes became glazed over in giddiness. "Naruto's a father?" They all asked in unison, terrifying Shikamaru and Lee, who had to face the brute force of their shock. Hi. Hokage-sama, Shikamaru managed to say before Tsunade stood up abruptly. Many within the room flinched and back away from the Godame. Tsunade reached into her desk and pulled out a large bottle of sake. "Looks like now I really am a grandmother," she said with a giddy face. Hey Iruka. That must make you an uncle or something, right? Come on, we'll have a drink to celebrate. 2 in fact. Our little Naruto's all grown up now. He's a husband and a father. I am so proud." Godame Somali interrupted, causing the great Xanon to glare at the spandex-clad young man with enough venom to kill a snake. Now if only that worked on Orochimaru all those years ago. "What is it?" she asked the poor young man with evil intentions, should his news appear irrelevant. Shikamaru sighed heavily before stepping forward. "Troublesome. Hokage-sama, Naruto-kun is a widower." The lid of the sake bottle popped open as Tsunade looked at Shikamaru in shock and surprise. "We found her grave marker. It was how we found this information. We believe that the years used on the markers were to indicate the Kyuubi. BK means before Kyuubi and AK must mean post-Kyuubi attack. She only died 2 years ago. Naruto has been traveling with his child ever since, only visiting on Mother's Day, his birthday, Isaribi's birthday, and date of death, Christmas, the date of what we believe is their wedding, and the date of what we think was the day of his child's birth." Tsunade felt rotten about that. Who did Naruto kill in a past life to deserve something like that? To only be married for a few short years and to lose the one you loved, leaving you with a child. Not to mention the Kyuubi incident and the hostility faced from the villagers, and not to mention his banishment. "Poor Naruto," Shizune said, putting a hand on Tsunade's shoulder. The Ashi decided now was an excellent time to ask something that had been bothering him since he had been told of the child's existence. "Does anyone know his name?" Lee shook his head negatively. "We do not know. All we know is that Naruto refers to him as Shibum. Can it be assumed that the child shares the same name as its father? If that is the case, then it can be assumed it is a son." Iruka shook his head. "Knowing Naruto and from how the child's been described, the child looks like Naruto, which could result in the nickname. The gender of the child is up in the air, as is its name. Himura coughed before speaking once again. With this new development, do you really think that Uzumaki will return to us? He may want to save his child from the persecution of the villagers. That's very likely, Kakashi added. Naruto may have been an idiot, being the key word here, but even in his youth, he wouldn't want his child to be treated like that. Many may have accepted Naruto and most want him back, but a majority of civilians have been protesting his appointment to Hokage. If Naruto hears about this, then there isn't a snowball's chance in hell of him coming back. Tsunade slammed her hands on her desk without using her super strength. Naruto needs to come back. I can't keep doing this job anymore. Naruto is the only one I trust. Konohamaru has been pushing, but I'm tired, not a buffoon. That child also needs a stable environment, and as its grandmother I order more ninja to track down Naruto. See if they can intercept him before he reaches the land of the sea. Shizune whispered into Iruka's ear. Now if only Naruto had been older years ago and had a kid, she would have done more work so the kid would be safe from persecution. I heard that Shizune. Bye Auntie Kayu. Haku called back from atop his father's shoulders. Ayubi's red eyebrow twitched dangerously. Kid, you are lucky you're my favorite godchild. I'm your only godchild, Haku yelled back as they got further and further away from the farm Kyuubi had housed them in for 3 weeks. Tusan, can we stay at home for a while? Kasan is probably very lonely. Haku said to his father. Naruto looked up into his son's eyes with confusion before breaking out into a grin. Sure, Kasan will like the company. We'll stay there a while and you can go to the school on the mainland. I'll airwalker flash step you over there in the mornings and when you're ready to come home. How's that sound? He asked with his foxy features. Tusan? Haku questioned, looking ahead towards Demon Island as they descended down the slope. Does anyone else live in the cottage while we're gone? No, why do you ask? Because someone's lit the fire at our cottage and the smoke is rising from the side vents as well. Naruto's eyes widened and he looked towards Demon Island. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, there was a fire in their house. Probably in the living room, since the vents also took that smoke to the other side of the island. Haku, no matter what happens, stay with Auntie Kayu. I'll wait here until you go in. I'll be back, I promise. Tell Auntie Kayu that something's going on at Demon Island and he isn't to interfere with it. Haku nodded uncertainly, not wanting to disobey his father, but at the same time worried for his safety. Be careful, Tusan. Haku was back at Kyuubi's house within 5 minutes when Kyuubi stuck his head out and ushered Chibineru in with Kyuubi P by his side. When he was sure Chibineru was safe, Naruto used a jutsu he had created a while back. Flash step. This jutsu needed no hand signs and was sort of like a chakra control exercise. With Kyuubi gone, Naruto was able to regulate his chakra better, allowing him larger capacities for chakra control. Flash step allowed the user to move at the speed of light or sound, depending on the chakra capacity. It wasn't as fast as the Hiraishin, but it beat the Shunshin and didn't need any kind of device to make it work. What made it work more in terms of chakra control exercises was using it on water. As Naruto passed by, many said they felt a strong gust of wind pass through the town. It was once a regular occurrence in town for a couple of years, but this time, instead of the usual happy feeling that came with the wind, now all it gave off was a sense of foreboding and a matter of urgency and rage. Sai, Kurenai and Yamato, who had remained on the mainland, sensed the familiar chakra fly past them and reached the ocean, heading for Demon Island. That was Yamato exclaimed with eyes widened with shock. Naruto-kun, we have to get to the island as soon as possible. Sakura stared out into the night, leaning on her elbows, looking at the mainland sorrowfully. Do you think he saw it? She asked Chaoji, who had the idea of starting a fire in the home to alert Naruto to their presence on the island. The Akimichi nodded in reply. The light and ventilated smoke should have alerted him to our presence. He should be here in a couple of hours. We'll see him whether he travels by waterwalking or boat. Unless he uses Shunshin. No matter what, we'll be able to subdue him with Shikamaru's shadow precision, and you girls can do your thing. Chaoji left when he saw the far-off expression on Sakura's face, knowing full well it was time to leave. Moments later, Hinata exited the cottage with a blanket for the pink-haired Neo-Sanin. Are you alright? The pale-eyed Hyuga asked, placing the blanket over Sakura's shoulders. Sakura sighed and put a hand to her cheek. Hinata had always been good at reading between the lines and knew Sakura was lying. No Byakugan was needed to sense the heartbeat quicken. Sakura was on the verge of collapsing in tears. You want to talk about it? She asked, putting a hand on her friend's shoulder. No, again another lie. But Hinata was not to be so easily derailed. You're suffering from a broken heart, Sakura. No medical jutsu in the world can cure something like that. What does help is talking about it. You're angry and upset that Naruto fell in love with someone else and has a child with another woman. You just want to pound his head into the ground and beat him to a pulp, or in my case Juikin him into the next century and making sure he can't have any more children. You're upset that you were too late in telling him the truth and that you've lost him forever. Sakura sighed. Geez Hinata, out of you and Ino I sometimes forget which one of you has the mental powers. Hinata shook her head. They're not mental powers. I am feeling the exact same way. We both loved Naruto-kun and we thought he wouldn't move on and we waited for him. Now 10 years on, we're still waiting and now he's a widower and has a 5-year-old child. I'm crushed and I know you are as well. Hinata's words struck a nerve in Sakura's head. It was the nerve she had been shielding but had been hit by the truth Hinata spoke to her. Tears welled up behind her eyes and she grasped her arms around Hinata's waist. She cried into her friend's stomach. It may have been lame and girlish and a weakness but what the Hyuga heiress had said had been true. She had waited for her chance and now it was all dust in the wind. Look, Ino exclaimed, pointing out onto the water between them and the village on the mainland. Every 20 feet there came a ripple in the water and a blurred image of someone. Someone with blonde hair. Naruto-kun, Hinata called out. He's so fast, Choji commented. Sakura whipped her eyes clean and pulled on her gloves. Come on then. Let's go get us a Hokage, she said with the sadness still dominant in her words, even though she spoke them fluently. Here he comes. Choji was the next to speak his opinions. How is he doing that? It's faster than Lee. It is speed, right, Hinata? The Hyuga girl had her bloodline limit activated and was watching Naruto as he ran towards them. It is speed. He takes one step and in a flash he's 20 feet away and ready to take another step. It's like he's using water walking as well. Chakra is being focused into his feet and it's regulating similarly to when a ninja does tree climbing or water walking. Here he comes. Here I am. Now tell me, who the hell are you and why are you in my front garden? Naruto asked as he appeared, eyes burning with rage, which however calmed when he saw pink hair, a sad Byakugan, a blonde who looked like the female Deidara, a large guy and a pineapple head. His eyes widened in shock and he took one step back before snarling and digging his hands into his back pocket for a Seiban. Naruto flicked his wrist towards Shikamaru, sending a single Seiban at his neck, hoping that with him out of the way, he wouldn't be easily subdued by the Kage main, no jutsu that the Nara clan were masters of. However, Shikamaru pulled out Asuma's old trench knives and used his chakra to deflect the Seiban. Naruto smirked at the type of chakra Shikamaru used, knowing it well from being a practicer of that type of chakra as well. I never knew you were a wind-type pineapple-head. He insulted the Nara man. Troublesome, Shikamaru said before attacking Naruto head-on with the trench knives. Naruto crisscrossed his arms across his body reaching down and took 2 golden tessin out from a pair of pouches attached to his thighs. On the first tessin were the kanji for Haku written in white and on the second was the kanji for the goddess of rice and kitsune, Inari, painted in blood red or what Shikamaru suspected it to be written in blood itself. HN, he said with a smile. I see you've taken up a new style, Naruto-kun. Tessin. Very feminine. But please, Naruto-kun, I'm married to a woman with a fan as big as her body and I know most weaknesses to the tessin. Naruto grinned wickedly at Shikamaru. So you finally married Temari-chan. About damn time, I say. Gaara owes me money for that one. You bet I would marry Temari. Yeah, oh, and Naruto commanded his chakra to extend off the 2 fans to make them seem as large as Temari's if not larger. Don't get distracted by my betting skills. With one sweep, Naruto cut a large gash across Shikamaru's chest as if he were just any other ninja and no friend of his at all. When Shikamaru fell to his knees, the blonde ponytailed haired man turned to the other 4 with a smirk. Who's next? Sasuke was followed by Neji, Tenten, Lee, Kakashi, Guy, Shino, Kiba, Iruka and Anko as he made his way to the land of the sea's border with Fire Country. They practically flew through the trees at top speeds until they crossed over into foreign territory. Within minutes, with their speed, they reached the coast where they met with Yamato, Kurenai and Sai, all 3 of which were looking towards Demon Island. Yamato. Report, Sasuke commanded as he landed and looked out across the way. Hi, Sasuke-sama, the Mokuton user said distantly. Even though Sasuke had returned to Konoha, Yamato still didn't forgive him for ramming a lightning sword into his chest or for betraying Konoha and trying to kill Naruto. He still disagreed that Sasuke should be here on this mission. His presence would only cause Naruto further distant towards the village. Sakura-sama, Ino-san, Choji-san, Hinata-sama and Shikamaru-san have all journeyed to Demon Island. They have spent the last 3 weeks there waiting. A couple of minutes ago, Naruto-kun waterwalked across the entire ocean in the space of 5 minutes at the speed of light, we believe. A moment ago we sensed chakra radiating from the island. Naruto must have engaged them into battle by now. Sasuke nodded and waved his hand up as if to signal the ninja to follow him before Tenten gasped. The entire company turned to look at her as she stared wide-eyed at something on the other cliff next to the one they used. The other ninjas followed her gaze to a sight Tenten, Neji and Sasuke recognized. There on the other cliff was a small child with blonde hair and red bangs tied up into a ponytail like Iruka's and a triad of black freckles on each cheek. A floating fox head with a tail and antenna followed behind him. The child held in his hands a flashlight. Sasuke's eyes narrowed when he recognized that the child was using Morse code. Haruka stepped forward looking at the oblivious child as that he didn't finish due to his own shock at seeing the child. Niji nodded in response. The child must be warning its father of something or alerting him to something that's happened. He doesn't seem to know we're up here. Hey Uzumaki, Sasuke called out to the kid. The child looked up in shock. How do you? He never got to finish his question. Lee had been ordered to get over there and knock the kid out should he respond. Haku fell to the ground unconscious, but Lee was able to grab hold of him before he hit the ground. A second later Lee reappeared in front of Sasuke and the others holding the child. Sleep well my youthful friend. The floating fox head bumped into Lee Ann's, surprisingly sending him flying backwards. Two holes appeared on either side of the child and mechanic fox-like arms extended from the ball. Sasuke however punched the ball and sent it flying into a Mokuton net he had created as soon as the toy was hit. Should we talk the toy as well? It seems to be its bodyguard, the Mokuton user asked. Sasuke nodded slowly before picking up the child in his arms. Hum on, Sasuke ordered, disappearing. The other followed suit and ran across the water to reach Demon Island. Back on the island, Choji had engaged Naruto in battle. He was currently a giant meatball heading straight for the blonde. Naruto leapt up as Choji came into rage and used a chakra-infused kick to send Choji to the side of the cliff where he banged up against the rocks. Impossible, Hinata gasped with her Byakugan on. Sakura turned her head to her fellow Leaf Nin as she and Ino healed the gash across Shikamaru's chest. Hinata gulped as Naruto dodged another of Choji's meat tank jutsus. Naruto-kun is using the same technique as Tsunade-sama. He infuses chakra into his legs or arms and disperses it at the moment of impact. I thought that could only be done with perfect chakra control. Naruto has too much chakra to do something like that. Choji overheard this and turned to Naruto smirking. You're no Neo Jiraiya. You're a Neo Tsunade with luck and better skills, Naruto shared in his smile before going through a series of hand signs. Well, Tsunade is like a mother to me. And I'm not as dumb as everyone thinks I am. He finished on a hand sign and pulled his right hand above his head. Hinata gasped as wind chakra gathered within his hand. It disappeared as he punched the ground. Fueton. Tenoton. World shaking. The ground was torn up by yellow wind chakra. Choji tried to grab at his, but his armor was torn to shreds, sending him hurling back with a few cuts. How? Naruto smirked as he prepared to do the same thing again. Think of it as the Fueton. Rasen Shuriken, only elemental chakra first, then shaping it. Then I let it fly. I call it Sky King element because it's been known to take the shape of the planet Uranus. I think Wave Country developed on like it only Kaoten. Pretty clever if I do say so myself. Fueton. Tenoton. World shaking. This time Choji was able to dodge before Naruto went through three hand signs again. He put his hands into fists, breathed in, leaned back, and expanded like Choji before blowing out. Fueton. Boom, bubble, a sphere blast of pure air was sent in Choji. This time it didn't miss, but it didn't hurt Choji, only sent him flying backwards. Damn it, Choji cursed as Naruto placed his hand flat out in front of him, his palm facing Choji. Taiju Uetsutsu Keta Rasengan, he called out. Choji inhaled sharply as 5 small Rasengans materialized on Naruto's fingers and thumb. Naruto ran towards Choji, who leapt away, causing Naruto to decimate a rock with his 5-digit Rasengan. Naruto turned towards Choji once again. Taiju Uetsutsu Keta Rasengan, yo, he called out, this time sending the 5 Rasengans on chakra strings. Mini Rasengans on chakra strings. Shikamaru asked as he pushed himself upwards to see what Naruto and Choji were doing. Is that even possible? Ino shook her head before replying, well, it is Naruto. The number 1 knuckle-headed, most unpredictable ninja in the history of the Leaf. That's a fair point. Back with Choji and Naruto, the blonde man ducked and leapt over Choji's enlarged limbs. Come on, Fatus. That all you got? The other 4 flinched at Naruto's stupidity. Had he forgotten how Choji got like whenever someone called him fat? It appeared so as the Akimichi's eyes flared up dangerously. Steam was snorted out of his nose and a growl sounded out of his mouth. I'm not fat. I'm big-boned. The Akimichi raged towards Naruto in heated intensity. Naruto ho have just smirked, predictable idiot, he said before jabbing his left forearm. Chakra surged around there and in a single instant a katana appeared in Naruto's hand. It was an elegant blade. It was as wide as freshly fallen snow and it shone in the moonlight. The handle was covered in a light blue cloth, or was it a ribbon, which was far longer than the handle, so it breezed freely around Naruto. Naruto began molding chakra into the blade as a blue aura appeared around it. Fueton. Jutsuga K-Zode, wind element. Moon Fang wind sleeve. The ribbon sharpened as did the blade. Naruto placed the sword pointing down with the ribbon directed up. The ribbon then created a circle, with the sword going down through the center of the circle. Chakra gathered into the circle until the entire thing was blue. Then all Naruto said was a simple "hi," and all hell broke loose on Choji. A bright blue light enveloped all of Demon Island, alerting all the villagers on the mainland. Look, they cried as a figure was thrown off the cliff and into the sea until someone caught him and pulled him out. Sasuke, Lee and Niji looked at what had happened to Chaoji and recoiled in horror. The poor man had been cut everywhere with the most of his armor torn to shreds. Blood gushed out from inside his clothes, though most of it was seeable as his top had various cuts. His face was thinly cut and most of his hair had been cleaved off, leaving it as short as it had been 13 years ago when he was a genin. His legs were a bundle of blood and cuts and his hands looked useless. Luckily his eyes, mouth, nose, most of his important facial features had been left intact and unscarred. "Chaoji. Wake up." Sasuke commanded before Niji shook his head. "It's no use. He's out cold. If Naruto did this, then the purpose of the jutsu is to put the victim to sleep so as they don't feel pain. There is chakra pushing Chaoji to sleep. He should be fine." Lee looked up at the top of the cliff where Ino could be heard screaming. Sai sped past them onto the beach and began running up the stairs to protect his wife. "Naruto-kun's attack truly is amazing," Lee commented at he, and Sasuke followed Sai's lead, while Niji kept an eye on Chaoji. "Could Naruto-kun actually do something like that?" Lee asked the Taicho for the mission. Sasuke furrowed his brow and kept on running onto the beach. "Huh? Hold on a second." Sasuke stopped with Lee behind him. "What is it, Sasuke Taicho?" Lee asked. Sasuke turned to Lee with a bewildered expression on his face. "How can you walk on water? You can't use chakra?" Sasuke asked. Lee stopped before giving his nice guy with a thumbs up pose. "Well, you see, my youthful Taicho, I have been Yusu in my special ninja shoes. They allow me to use chakra exercises with ready infused chakra, which is always ready to be used and recycled. An inventor from the land of the sea created them and I ordered them 2 years ago in the ninja catalog." Sasuke blanched. "They actually sell those?" Naruto grinned as Hinata tried to use her Juuken. Unfortunately, Naruto was a long-ranged specialist, something the gentle fist was weak against. "Come on. I thought you were supposed to improve, not bore me with predictable Juuken." Hinata leapt at Naruto once again, trying to disarm his legs. Naruto pushed up with his legs and completed a one-hand handstand, using that to leap away from Hinata. Naruto KKK-kun. PP please, we just want to tea-talk." Hinata stuttered. She may have lost her stutter over the years, but it was Naruto's presence which ruined her record, reverting her to her stuttering. Naruto's face turned into one of disgust. "And you still have that stutter? Listen, pale eyes, go home and get some help. The battlefield ain't no place for nervous wrecks." Sakura growled at Naruto. This was the person they wanted for their Hokage. Someone who had called Chaoji fat, insulted Shikamaru's hair, and was quickly destroying all the confidence that Hinata had built up over the last decade. He was no Hokage. He was a newer version of Sasuke with blonde hair and better skills. Hinata looked down to the ground upset. This was not how she imagined Naruto to be. He was supposed to be kind and ask what they were doing here, then accept the position of Rakyudame. He would come back with them and have a nice peaceful long life. But here was nothing more than a ruthless shinobi. "Naruto!" Sakura cried as she ran towards the blonde. She swung her fist with the same technique Tsunade used. Unfortunately, she had forgotten Naruto knew how to do that technique also. As she swung, so did he. Their fists met with a boom and a crunch. Sakura's eyes widened in shock and Naruto grinned in satisfaction. "So, Pinky, like the strength, how's it feel to finally be on the receiving end of a chakra punch from someone you used it on so often?" Sakura swung with her other arm, her fist making contact with the side of Naruto's face. He winced and flew back, holding his cheek in pain as he crashed into the side of the cliff which towered over the one where the cottage resided. "Don't call me Pinky," Sakura said venomously. Naruto stood up and grinned. "Geez, and I thought it was Sasuke who summoned snakes." Sakura raged at Naruto and began to dish out pain with her one good hand. Naruto grunted every time she hit him until finally he kicked her in the chest, sending her flying back into a weeping Hinata who was constantly muttering, "He hates me, I'm nothing but weak. He hates me." "That all you got?" he asked them. "No, this is Ino," said before Naruto turned and his world went black. By that time the others arrived. The place looked like a war zone. Sai looked over at Ino's body and grew distressed. "Ino? Ino? What have you done?" Naruto's body sighed before replying. "Honey, you overreact sometimes. I'm fine. Naruto's out cold right now, so hit the body out cold and let's get him to Konoha." Sai rushed over and grabbed his wife's body. Yamato used his Mokuton to bind Naruto's body in wooden binds. Sasuke copied this action with his snakes. Iruka held a sleeping Haku in his arms, Tenten helped Niji support an unconscious Chaoji. Kurenai picked up a weeping Hinata who grabbed onto her and bawled her eyes out. A wincing Sakura was lifted up by Lee. Kakashi grabbed Shikamaru who mumbled something about troublesome blondes. When Kyuubi finally reached Demon Island, his godson, ex-vessel and invention were gone as were the Leaf Ninja. The village hidden in the leaves, Konohagakure no Sato, was a picture of peace and calm. Children played in the streets, old men with beards as wide as snow played shogi and go in the shade. Ice cream stands sold pretty well due to the intense heat produced by the warm sun. The parks were filled with lazy and playful children, ninja walked around leisurely, babies poked their little bald heads out of their prams to see all the sights and smells, the calm, serene image of Naruto did what? People jumped back in shock at the sound of the goddamn Hokage as she exclaimed a sentence not heard from in nearly a decade. Older people sweat dropped and the younger villagers and residents of Konoha looked on in confusion to the source of Tsunade's outburst. Inside the Hokage office, Ino, a bandaged Sakura, a nervous wreck version of Hinata and a semi-mummified Shikamaru flinched at the busty woman. Their report had to be made to Tsunade and the rest of the council. Hiashi put a comforting hand on Hinata's shoulder, Shizune was bust looking after Chaoji, and the civilians were in an uproar. And you want him to be Hokage? Look at what he did to 5 of our best jounins. And that toy the child keeps. I say we kill it, and if we need any of the Kyuubi's power we breed the Uzumaki to create an army, one member of the civilian proposed in his biased rage. Tsunade shot him a glare before returning to the four-winded ninja. So you're saying he used a Rasengan on each digit of his hands, then used them as yo-yos? Then he did that thing with a sword. Sakura looked up at her predecessor with informative eyes. Tsunade-sama, Tenten-san researched the weapon. There's nothing special about it, only that it's highly conductive to chakra. The Hokage nodded and looked at the council. He's powerful, I'll give him smart too. Distracting Shikamaru and putting Chaoji into a blind rage. Weakening Hinata and using my own techniques against my successor for Sannin. I don't think all of you there together could have taken him out. You're lucky. And the child? Hamura asked Kaharu who walked in. The old woman gave a soft smile. He's such a sweet boy. A con artist, but a sweet child. Hiashi nodded. So the child is male. Hamura raised a confused eyebrow. What do you mean a con artist, Kaharu? The old woman sweat dropped in embarrassment. Well, you see, the child used a jutsu called the puppy dog pout. He got me to buy him a crate load of Pocky. Aki? Shouldn't he be addicted to ramen? Iruka asked the old woman who gave then a bewildered look. I know. It is strange, but when I mentioned giving him ramen he gave a look of disgust at me and told me that he hated ramen. Apparently so does his father. Iruka's ear perked up. Naruto hates ramen. This is either the wrong guy or the end of the world. Tsunade looked over to her sensei's old teammate with worry in her eyes. Did you at least find out his name? She asked. The others leaned in to hear this. Kaharu nodded before telling of the child. He says his full name is Naruto Haku Uzumaki 2. His father and friends call him Haku, but if you are a stranger or he dislikes you, you must call him Naruto or in his father's presence Chibineru as not to confuse them. Tsunade looked confused. Haku? Where the hell did he get Haku from? Sakura. She said the last part because she had noticed her student look sullen all of a sudden. So he named his child after him, huh? She asked no one in particular. Figures. He had a huge impact on Naruto's life. Naruto would honor his precious people after all. Iruka put a hand on her shoulder. Sakura, who is Haku? The pink-haired Sannin responded by retelling their first C-rank mission as a team in the Land of Waves and who Haku was. Apparently Haku was a feminine boy from a clan of Hyoten users in the Land of Water. Kakashi Odd killed him as he tried to save Zabuza Mamachi from the Rikiri. But before that he had given some life lessons to Naruto before he passed away. Aw, that is so sweet, Anko said before jumping onto Iruka's back. Hey Iruka-chan, how do you think Naru-chan'll take it that you named our lil bub after him? Huh? 3 Narutos running around. The others in the room looked up in thought before shivering nervously and fearfully. Should we prepare the bomb shelter now or later when we find out Naruto and Chibineru prank people? Iruka proposed. Better to be safe than sorry. So did you get anything else out of him, Kaharu-san? Tsunade asked the 82-year-old advisor. The old woman shook her head negatively. No, the child went as far as to threaten to scream out in the street about perverted old ladies attacking him. A round of giggles came from some of the women in the room. Just like Naruto. Tsunade-sama, the Aburam clan head, said towards the Hokage. Are you sure that he'll even stay? From what they've told us, nothing short of threatening Chibineru's life will get him to agree to become our Hokage, and I do not feel all that comfortable with threatening the lives of children. This isn't a Togakur, even if some members of Konohagakure here, he looked at the civilians on the council, are just as bad and ruthless. Tsunade looked at the picture of a young genin Naruto which sat on her desk, thinking. Naruto in the picture wore his old orange jumpsuit, the first one. He was grinning with Tsunade and Taunton at the hot springs they went to before they reached the village, when Naruto and Jiraiya went in search of her. He looked good in his kimono, even if it was orange in the necklace. The light bulb went off in Tsunade's head. A wicked grin threatened to split her face in half. The others in the room recoiled in fright at the smiling Hokage. She remembered how Naruto got her to become Hokage, and she thought that it was time for payback. But Naruto seemed to have endless luck, so more than one would be needed. Council. I've got a plan. Naruto groaned as he woke up to see the white ceiling of the Konoha hospital. Shit, he exclaimed at the leering white ceiling. And here I thought that I'd never see this again. Why the hell did they have to come get me? A small childlike voice spoke next to them. Because they have giant sticks up their asses. Naruto turned to see Haku with Kyuubi in his lap and a crate of Pocky next to him. Glad to see you're up too, San, the boy told his father. Haku? Naruto exclaimed. How did you get here? Did they attack the farm? How's Kyuubi? The child looked down with sad eyes. I'm sorry Tsunade, I really am. Auntie Kayu had guests coming and when they arrived he tripped and they all fell down into the basement. I went to use the torch you bought me to tell you, but they called me over and then hit me. I've only talked to the old lady with big earlobes, but I've seen most of the village Tsunade. Naruto enveloped his son into a bone-crushing hug. The young child wept into his father's chest muttering apologies and Naruto shushed him and kissed his forehead, caressing his red bangs and blonde locks. It's okay Chibum, it's okay, you're safe now. It's alright. We'll get through this. A voice at the door exclaimed. Naruto turned to see who it was only for his eyes to enlarge in fear and shock. There in the doorway was Kib and Yuzuka, Niji Hyuga, Tenten, Rock Lee, Shino Aburam, Shizune, Sai and Sasuke Uchiha. It had been Sasuke and Kiba who had laughed. Never had you for the father type Uzumaki. Kiba snorted loudly. Naruto snarled dangerously at the dog ninja. What do you want with us bastard mutt brain? He insulted. What you call me? Kiba demanded. Oh you want me to repeat myself. I said what do you want with us bastard mutt brain? Assuming you actually have one. Sasuke stepped in between the two feral ninjas. Calm down Inuzuka, dope. And a duck butt head Naruto called Sasuke. You could have heard a pin drop in that room had Chibanero not been snickering. Tsunade it may be true, but it's still rude you know he said to his father who smiled at him yet scowled at everything else. Kiba was inwardly startled by the scowl Naruto gave them. Sasuke's eyes narrowed and his Sharingan activated. Naruto Tenten began walking over to him and trying to ease the situation. How are you? She didn't get the chance to finish as Naruto stepped back. Get lost Panda. A Dango Atama time seemed to stop for the second time. Lee knew what was to come next and used his speed to restrain his wife. Why you little let me go Lee. Let me at him. Let me at him. Tenten struggled. Naruto's eyes scanned the group and gave a malicious smirk as he formed some cruel thoughts in that head of his. What is this, a mini reunion of the Rookie 9 and friends? Here we have Ink Blot, Sai, Bug Boy, Shino, and a head, Tenten, Dog Brain, Kiba, Eyebrow Freak with smaller eyebrows, Lee, Closet Lesbian, Shizune, Emo King, Sasuke, and Miss. Pearl Eyes, Niji. Each member were either in shock at the insults or fuming at being insulted by Naruto. Chibanero grinned evilly as his father gave insulting nicknames to each and every one of the room's occupants minus him, Naruto SNR. And Kyuubi ha Tsunade, I think they're mad the child said putting on his puppy pout jutsu. It was a jutsu which required one hand sign. Chakra was sent to the facial area, it was sort of like a jinjutsu and an ninjutsu as well. It deceived emotions and gave the victim a desire to hug and or grope the user of the jutsu. It exploited the human sensation that reacts with cute things. It attracted different preferences for cute in everyone and caused them to become slaves to the user's will. Oh, ain't he cute. Must have gotten that from his mother Tenten said as she tried to hug Chibanero. Get away from my son you pedophile Naruto exclaimed pointing at Tenten. I am not a pedophile Raymond Brain. Chibanero looked at Naruto confusingly letting his jutsu stop. Hey Tsunade what is she talking about? I thought you hated Raymond like I do. For the third time in the space of 10 minutes the room froze. Jaws dropped and eyes bulged. Naruto sweat dropped before noticing something. They were all off guard and his weapons were right next to his bed. He pulled an arm around Chibanero, who held onto Kyuubi and some Pocky and Naruto grabbed his weapons in his other hand. By the time anyone noticed, Naruto began to use flash step. He disappeared in a blur. Damn it, outside in the street the father and son materialized. Naruto knelt down placing his hands on Chibanero's shoulders. Haku, we have to get out of here. I promise I'll explain everything when we get to Auntie Kayu's farm. And just who is Auntie Kayu? A familiar voice sounded from behind him. Naruto turned to see the woman he had once considered a grandmother. Tsunade Senju, the last original Sannin, Godame Hokage, student of the third Hokage, granddaughter of the first Hokage and great niece to the second Hokage. The greatest healer in history and titled as the legendary sucker for her gambling habits, her bad luck and her more quiet endeavors. Hello Naruto she said happily. Hello, you old crone faker. He shot back into her face. Any reason why you decided to have me dragged back to this worm-infested cesspool? Tsunade shivered with the tone the young man addressed her in and the language he used. Did Naruto even know what a cesspool was? I can't spell it right. Tsunade looked back towards Naruto after her shudder and studied him closely. And she had to admit, if she were 40 years younger, she would be after him like bees to flowers. In her opinion, he was hot. His hair was even neat, it looked sort of good in that ponytail. His color scheme seemed a bit off with his hair, but red and black work well together. His whisker marks were even lighter, now looking nothing more than scars that were slowly healing. Naruto. Why don't we go to my office and we can talk about this? She said the last part because people were starting to stare and point at Naruto. Whispers followed through the street as everyone wanted to know why the hell Naruto Uzumaki was back in Konohagakure after 10 long years in exile. No, he said defiantly, his eyes burning with confusion and rage. I want to know right here, right now, why you had over a dozen shinobi track me down, attack me and my son, and bring us back here, even after I was banished from not only Konoha, but from Fire Country. You looking for a reason to have me executed, crone? In case you forgot, I'm not a Konoha shinobi anymore, so you can't order me around. Tsunade clutched the bridge of her nose with her index finger and thumb. Naruto was proving to be more of a headache inducer now than when he was 15. Was he making up for lost time? Or was he just doing this to piss her off? It was either one or the other, and Tsunade would say it was the later option. Naruto, just calm down and we'll talk in my office. Now come with me. Bite me, crone, he told her forcibly. What did you say? Tsunade asked, a tick mark growing from her forehead. She poised her hand for a punch. Naruto, however, just smirked. Tsunade. Hasn't Pinky told you yet of how I can use your little trick now? It won't work. I can hit back with more force than you as well. Tsunade grew suspicious of that. How the hell can you of all people do my technique? You have the crapest chakra control in history. Naruto smirked. A little bonus of no longer being the holder of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The street stopped dead. Eyes widened and heart skipped the odd beats. The ninja in the vicinity tensed and the civilians grew terrified. Tsunade began to shake at Naruto's cocky eyebrow and stare. What do you mean? She asked, terrified at what Naruto told her. The blonde began to inspect his nails with his other arm crossed across his chest. Oh, nothing, except the seal had a timer on it with option. After 18 years Foxy has a choice. Get a new body in a clone jutsu with a vast cut in its powers and its rank as a demon, putting it at Jounin, maybe Sannin level, or stay curled up in my gut for the rest of eternity. Naturally Kyuubi chose freedom. As a nice little farm in the country, couple of pigs, a handful of cow, a herd of horses, all maintained by the money I win in casinos across the continent. So Kyuubi's living the life of a normal human. Granted a jutsu wielding, portal to hell making, Sannin level normal human, but human. People glance at each other in fright. The Kyuubi was loose once again, but in a human body, oh, and he has total loyalty to me, and only me, Naruto quipped then as he began to inspect the nails on his other hand. I really need to take better care of my nails, they're starting to get stubby. No more taiju uetsutsu ketara sengens for a while, or I lose a good weapon, he said nonchalantly. Kakashi and Sasuke, who had arrived moments before, stared in shock at the dope. He had done all that to Choji, Shikamaru and Sakura without Kyuubi. They shuddered at imagining what Naruto would be like with Kyuubi. There would be no force on earth that could stop him. It was probably dumb luck that Ino was able to stop him. Tsunade began to gather her nerve again. It was the one trump card they had hidden away. The weakness of Naruto they were to exploit, even though they honestly were going to go through with it. They were going to tell him later on, but Tsunade believed it would be now or never. Well, Naruto, you wanted your answers. We of the Hidden Leaf Village, Konohagakure no Sado, of the Honorable Fire Country are appointing you as Rakudame Hokage. This was it. Tsunade was giddy. She could just imagining him saying, Yahoo, I'm gonna be Hokage, see I told you it would be great. However, what she had forgotten to expect was what he said right then and there in front of the whole street full of shinobi and civilians. Over Konoha's dead body. Again, hearts froze and stopped. Anyone who knew Naruto from when he was a kid knew that he would constantly proclaim that he was going to become Hokage. Hokage this, Hokage that, they were sure he would be over the moon about this. But for him to say over Konoha's dead body. Well, that did come as a shock. Tsunade could have sworn someone lost consciousness back in the crowd. Possibly even several people. Nani? Nearly everyone exclaimed after a moment of silence. Several people had been admitted to the hospital. They were all older civilians and shinobi who had known Naruto for years before his banishment. Each seemed to have suffered a small heart attack and were all in severe cases of shock. The reason? Naruto Uzumaki, the loud-mouthed, knuckle-headed, unpredictable, here I am kill me orange-wearing, ramen-devouring Hokage to be, had refused the position of Hokage. Not long after this declaration in the middle of a street, Anbu had shown up and many had asked the Konoha 12 if they had brought back the right Naruto. It was confirmed that he was the real Naruto, but one of the bigger shockers was the revelation that he was no longer the vessel for the nine-tailed fox, the Biju which had killed so many people was free inside a human body. That was what scared people. The council were in a meeting right now to discuss this latest development. If he no longer has the Kyuubi then he is useless, some nameless villager demanded the attention of the others residing in the council chambers within the Hokage Tower. Useless is he? Hiashi asked the villager. Then please explain to us how you believe that 3 of our top jounin were severely beaten to a pulp and 1 was ripped apart by a sword technique. Or did they do that to themselves? Think about this. If news got out about Naruto being able to do something like this without so much as breaking a sweat, then imagine how well it would look in our records and to the other hidden villages. Naruto Uzumaki is the hero of several villages: Suna, Nami, Hashi, Taki, Tsuki, Oni, not to mention the land of birds. If they found out Naruto returned to us, then they'll jump to our side in an instant. Tsunade decided she needed to rain on this parade of thought. Yes, but imagine if Naruto declares himself hostile to us. The other villages will turn against us, and Iwa, Kumo, Kusa and Odo will be on our backs in minutes. Not to mention they'll try to get him onto their side. Iwa will demand they have nothing to do with him unless execute him. We already spread the news that he was the Yondame's son, Minato's one and only kid. Once that reached Iwa, they'll be here sooner than you can say. Minato Namikaze Ino agreed. Being the daughter of the head Yamanaka, Ino was next in line and as such was on the council. Tauza and Shikaku were there as Shikamaru and Chaoji were in no shape to attend a council meeting. Shizune, how is Chaoji's condition? Chaoza asked the faithful medic Nin. The black-haired belle smiled. After talking with Naruto, the way the jutsu works is sort of an anger management jutsu. It hurts the user but puts them into a coma so they do not feel pain. She grimaced at this. Anyway, once Chaoji is all healed up, it will be as if nothing happened. The cuts are designed to slowly repair themselves. He didn't really want to hurt Chaoji at all. The jutsu was apparently created by Isaribi when she was going through her periods and pregnancy, and Naruto got on her bad side. He knows how it feels, apparently you just go numb. It's also good for tricking your enemies to believing their comrade is dead, so you can take him for interrogation. And he just told you that? No, Chibaneri did. Naruto denied that he even used that jutsu on purpose and was supposed to use a more lethal one. The child is very good at healing jutsu. Where is he now? Yelling at the doctors for using herbs and jutsu that slowly heal patients. He has so many herbal techniques and jutsus to do with healing, I wouldn't have thought that he was Naruto's child. He's even politer than Naruto. Must have been his mother's influence. Must have been. This is even more proof that the child should stay here and be put with a different family. The skills the child knows and the potential. With us to mold him, he could become our greatest weapon, another villager announced. I say we take the child from its father, kill the man and go after the demon incarnate and use the child in the war, his friend said. Shikaku rolled his eyes. Oh sure, let's do that. How about we just pop over to your homes right now? I believe you have a 2-year-old daughter, don't ya? Let's put her into our seduction interrogation unit for the war. Then we'll keep her under lock and key. The ninja could not help but try to hide their laughter from his sarcasm. Or better yet, let's just put her on the front lines. You'll do no such thing. Then Chibanero will have no part in our war. Nor will he be our weapon. Are you channeling Danzo? Though we were finally done with him. I'm surprised hell hasn't spat him back out yet, along with Orochimaru. Chaozu quipped. Okay, that's enough. This council was called so I may run my plan by you. It's how we're going to get Naruto to stay with us and become our Hokage. From evidence provided over the years and his recent strength and skill against enemies, Hiashi cut in by here. But they were not enemies. Tsunade shook her blonde head. To Naruto they were. Now we all know Naruto is most suited for the job with his skills and fear factor. But he won't stay. This is my plan. When I get out of these, I am going to castrate you all with a spoon. Naruto threatened as he struggled against his binds. Ink wraps, wooden bonds, chains, snakes, kikai bugs, ropes and seals. I swear to you all, you'll all be begging me to rip out your innards. Let me go. Sasuke rolled his eyes at the threats given to him and his fellow ninjas. Yamato looked nervous as he stood next to Sai, both afraid that Naruto would go through with his promise. Let me free, Sasuke growled animalistically. Shut up, Dope. Kiba snickered on the other side of the room next to Shino. Hey Naruto, you should calm down. How's about we get you some ramen? Dry and you'll be needing to be fed through a rubber tube for years to come, dog butt. Naruto retaliated. The Kashi kept giving Naruto appraising looks. Guy and Lee stood across from him and tried to cheer up Naruto. Hey Naruto-kun, your flames of youth are impressive, but they still are dim in your unyouthful approach to life, Guy shouted in Naruto's face. Lee followed Asude. Hi, Naruto-kun. Your unyouthfulness is being forced onto an impressionable pinnacle of youth. Young Chibanero is probably suffering from your unyouthful tendencies. If you two don't cut that crap out, I will be sure to castrate the pair of you, then use the waters of age to kill your flames of youth. The blonde man threatened. Don't tell me how to raise my kids. What you've done to Lee, Guy, is nothing short of child abuse. Naruto, that is most unyouthful. That's it. Lee, I'm castrating you first. At that moment Sakura walked into the holding room where they were currently containing Naruto. She had heard the last part and giggled. Naruto, she said happily. HN, you say something, Pinky. Now the old Sakura would have exploded in a fit of rage and smacked Naruto across the face with one of her super punches. The new Sakura simply winced and walked forward to Naruto holding a tray of food. Don't talk to her like that. Sasuke ordered Naruto with anger in his voice. No, it's okay, Sasuke. It's fine. Here Naruto, I brought you some tea. It has milk so I hope you like it, she said, lifting the cup up and offering it to him. Begrudgingly Naruto accepted it. This better not have any truth serum in it, Haruno, or I'll make sure you pay for it, he warned before sipping the tea. Sakura continued to tilt it into Naruto's mouth, like a mother giving her teething baby milk. Sasuke glared at the scene before the door next to him opened up wide and all the way, effectively squashing and trapping Sasuke behind the back of the door. "Tsunade," Chibineru exclaimed. Thankfully Sakura had known he was coming and had taken the cup away from Naruto's mouth before any damage could be done. The little tyke became a blur of black, red and blonde, which collided with Naruto's Donphin form. "Haku. Are you alright?" Naruto asked his son. The little boy nodded. "Hi, but this scary old bat keeps chasing me." "Who you calling a scary old bat, you little brat?" A voice called out which made Naruto sweat uncontrollably. He averted his eyes to the door to see the only thing on the same level of scariness as a pissed Tsunade. Anko Mitarashi, the purple-haired special jounin who had proctored the second stage of the Chunin exams and who had accompanied Ino, Shino and Naruto to the land of the sea where they met Isaribi. "Ahhh. Demonic Snake Queen." Naruto exclaimed, trying to edge his chair away from her. The purple-haired jounin felt her eye twitch and she cracked her knuckles. What was that, blondie?" Naruto continued to edge away from her, feeling dangerously close to letting Haku become an orphan. "Oh, nothing." Anko, a voice Naruto recognized from years ago but could not place the image or name called after the snake jounin. "Kasan." Another voice cried. Naruto's ears perked up before he began to snicker. "You a mother? Who's the holy crap, Iruka-sensei?" Tsururuka had skidded into the room holding a child under his arms. The child looked like a mini Tsururuka, but with a pair of unruly brown bangs ramming his face, at least Naruto thought it was a he. His eyes were like Anko's as well, but his skin was tanned like Iruka's. Add a scar across his nose, cut his bangs, give him contacts, and you'd think Iruka shrunk in the wash. Sasuke and Kiba grumbled under their breath, staring murderously at Naruto. "Sure, you use his name, but to us you just threw insults." "Thanks a lot, Naruto," Sasuke growled. "Naruto?" The little guy under Iruka's arm asked his father. He crooked his neck up so it was pointing at Iruka's face. "That Naruto, Tsunade?" the child asked. Iruka nodded and within seconds the child was gone, only to be found having pushed Haku into Sakura's arms and hugging the trapped Naruto. "Ani-chan." He cried, embedding his little face as far into Naruto's chest as he could. A few minutes of silence before. "Hey, Iruka-sensei, who the hell is this little gaki?" Naruto asked. Iruka and Anko sweat dropped as the child began to bounce on Naruto's lap. Hey, don't cha know, Aniki. I'm your Itato." Naruto froze, looking down at the little child with weary eyes. You are?" The child nodded enthusiastically. "Hi. We even have the same name. Naruto. You're Naruto Uzumaki and I'm Naruto Yamino." "Get away from my Tsunade, bastard," Haku cried from Sakura's arms. "Jibineru," Sakura scolded. "Haku, what have I told you about swearing?" Naruto asked his son, raising an accusing eyebrow to the 5-year-old in the pink-haired woman's arms. The child gave off a large foxy grin, complete with shut eyes, before exclaiming. "Swear like a sailor and kick the crap out of anyone who tells you off." "That's my boy." Anko gave Iruka a grin before attaching herself to his arm. "You know, I like his parenting method," she whispered before Iruka began to blanch. Great, now Anko was going to teach their Naruto that and the village will never hear the end of it. "So what should you do, Haku?" Naruto asked, a malicious glint in his eyes. The small child grinned before elbowing Sakura in the side. It was a sharp jab which caused the Mednin to gasp out in pain. "Ah," she exclaimed, letting go of Chibineru, who leapt up onto his father's lap trying to strangle the third Naruto. "Leave my Tsunade alone. He's my Aniki." "Well, he's my Tsunade. Aniki, Tsunade, Aniki, Tsunade." "You know," Naruto interrupted. "I had a dream like this once, only instead of two little brats with the same name as me, they were two gorgeous hot women. They were fighting over me and who was going to feed me Pocky." "Ah, sweet, Pocky." Suddenly Naruto's eyes narrowed. "Will someone get me some damn Pocky? I'm starving in this hole." Just then Tsunade decided to make her appearance. "Well, I see we're getting along alright," she stated as she walked up to Naruto's chair. "I don't know if you consider me threatening to castrate most of them with a spoon. Getting along, Tsunade-sama." He drawled the sama out as if it were something disgusting you needed to spit out. The Kunoichi flinched at her adoptive grandson's words. Where was the ray of sunshine now when they most needed him? Buried under bitterness, hatred and pain. Tsunade stood in front of the chair with her arms stretched out. Naruto looked into her eyes just before she flicked him on the forehead, sending him flying back into the wall behind him. "Ah," he cried as he went flying. Tsunade smirked and advanced on the man who was now bleeding from his forehead. The young man growled at her as the other occupants of the room tensed, afraid of what Tsunade was going to do to the poor kid. When she reached Naruto, she wrapped her arms around him and pulled him into a bone-crushing hug. "It is so good to see you again, Naruto-chan," she said as Naruto's face turned blue. The others snickered at his reaction. "Can't breath." He wheezed as Tsunade continued to strangle him with her arms. When she was finally done manhandling the blonde, she stood over him. "Naruto-kun, I have a proposition for you." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "What kind of proposition?" he asked accusingly. Tsunade broke out into a grin. "Well, since you had me return to the village on a bet, I decided to return the favor." Naruto remained silent for a minute before bursting out into laughter. "Wahaya? You bet me?" "Tsunade, I've been winning bets and ransacking casinos for the better half of a decade. With my good luck and your crap luck, I'm sure to win the bet." Tsunade waited until he was finished. "The bet is that the Konoha 12 and others will fight and defeat you in a no-holds match. One-on-one. You will fight and defeat each of our ninja from the weakest to the strongest. You may have as many weapons as you like, but remember that there is to be no killing, no maiming and no permanent injuries. You must win each match to move on to the next. However, should you at least one of your matches, you will automatically be considered a ninja of Konoha once more. Probably Chunin, Jounin if we can squeeze it." Naruto turned slowly towards Sakura. "Hey Pinky. Did Hag's brain, small as it may be, finally discover it was being watched and go into her boobs? I mean, there's more room down there, it's like a retirement home." He was met by a punch to the face by Tsunade, who began to see that the ungrateful attitude shown towards her. "How dare you brat. Easy, I think it, then I think to myself, I dare you, then I say it. That's how I dare myself," Naruto replied cockily. Tsunade grabbed him by the front of his shirt and pulled his face to meet hers. "Do you have any idea how much time and effort we've put into finding you?" Naruto lifted up his eyebrow and replied. "About a month, and you overexerted yourselves to find me." It took all of Tsunade's moral strength not to punch the man now. "Ungrateful little brat. We've been searching for you, we even promised to fulfill your lifelong dream, and what do? Throw it back in our faces and treat us like shit. We love you, Naruto. Why are you treating us like we're subhuman?" She begged him to answer. Naruto then did something rather bold and daring, and also disgusting. He spat in Tsunade's face. The others froze in shock and outrage. "When I look in your eyes," Naruto spoke with a voice that seemed to be the actual incarnation of hatred and disgust. "I don't see love. I don't see regret. All I see are a couple of pathetic bugs who turned their backs on me. Remember when I was first banished, Tsunade? You and all the others here." He moved his head to indicate the other ninja. "You all gladly turned your backs, literally. That walk of shame I did out of the village, where not even one of you dared to turn to meet my eye and tell me how much you would miss me. You didn't even flinch when you noticed that Anbu hit me across the face. Or did you forget that?" Naruto stood up, still strapped to the chair, his face burned into a scowl. "Of course you did. I wasn't important. I wasn't worth a damn in your eyes. None of you." The others recoiled. It was at that moment that they truly realized their Naruto was dead, and it was all their fault. Tsunade walked into her office later that evening like a dead woman walking. She looked like a zombie to those who had seen her on the street. She looked broken. They could all tell. Something must have happened with that ex-Jinchuriki. No one noticed the small trickle of water that ran down her cheeks. Once she reached the office, she was greeted by the council and Shizune. The council consisted of high-ranking ninja, the clan heads, the 2 advisors of the Hokage themselves, and a small group of civilians. The Hokage ran the ninja, the advisors gave her advice in running the welfare of her ninjas, such as the ninja supplies. The high-ranking ninja were there in time of war to help the Hokage find weaknesses in enemies and to strengthen their army. The clan heads represented their clans and ran the clan business, civilian and ninja, within the jurisdiction of the Hokage and the civilian council. They ran the economical needs for the villagers, sorted out orphans' allowances, organized events and worked under the Hokage. They were all sat around the office, each with a glass of wine in their hands, courtesy of a civilian member of the council. The clan heads, the high-ranking ninja, the advisors and a couple of civilians looked disgusted, whilst some of the civilians looked rather tipsy. Oi, Hokage-sama. Did you convince him? Will he fight?" "Tsunade-sama." Shizune exclaimed. "Is that saliva on your face? What happened and are you crying?" The Hokage's assistant asked her master. The other council members surrounded the blonde Hokage as she fell to her knees. It was then that Tsunade broke. Tears streamed down her face and the Jinjutsu she always wore faded, revealing to the council that something had gone wrong and they were not going anywhere with the plan. A week after the confrontation between Naruto and Tsunade found the blonde man having a checkup in a hospital, done personally by the assistant of the woman he had spat in the face of. Shizune kept giving Naruto nervous glances, afraid of what he would do to her. She had never been afraid of Naruto, she didn't fear what he could do physically and mentally back when he was younger, but now she was afraid of what he was capable of. Tsunade had cried herself to sleep every night for the past week, and even then it was only about an hour's sleep, then she went back to crying. Shizune had never seen her mentor so destroyed before. It scared her that Naruto could do that by simply spitting on her face and staring her straight in the eye and telling her what he hated about all of Konoha. The woman had enough to deal with right now. The war with stone, cloud, grass and sound was drawing closer and she ought to bring in all of the allied villages for a conference begging them to help her. Daimyos Yuki Fujikaze, Michiru Tsukino and his son, Hikaru, and Toki of the lands of snow and birds, respectfully were also in attendance. Tsunade thought that them being good friends of Naruto could help convince him to return. The Kazekage, leader of Tokigakure, the Namikage, the Hoshikage, the leaders of Demon Country and the various council members from those foreign lands would also be joining. The Daimyo of Fire would also be coming. Tsunade had also tried to bring forth the Mizukage, but with little to no results. Shizune looked over Naruto's charts and glanced up as the young man held his sleeping son on his lap. Shizune also took notice of his chest area which caused her to go as red as a tomato. He wasn't overly muscular, his chest looked like a teenager's or young man's who worked on a sports team. She tried to hide her blush with her clipboard, but she could tell that Naruto knew she was blushing. Well Naruto, your vital signs are great, your body is in amazing physical condition, you have no illnesses, your eyesight is perfect, the only problem is your sugar levels. They're far too high. You should cut down. According to this you're much healthier than when you lived here 10 years ago, the dark-haired woman told her patient. Naruto snorted and rolled his eyes. That's no surprise. I haven't eaten all the crap you lot tried shoving down my throat, he then seemed to swell up with pride. And besides, me and Isaribi did have our own restaurant once, we had to be healthy, especially when Haku was coming along. Shizune smiled at him. He looked so much like you. Cute. Naruto narrowed his eyes at his ex-adoptive older sister's thoughts about him. You're not trying to butter me up are you? He asked untrustingly. Shizune swiftly shook her head to either side of her neck. No, Naruto-kun. Just stating the obvious. The two of you are cute, especially together. Naruto seemed to exert an extra layer of cockiness and confidence onto his aura. Why thank you Shizune. By the way Naruto grinned, did you finally come out as a lesbian? Shizune turned bright red. I am not a lesbian. Shizune exclaimed, fighting the urge to smack Naruto across the head. I should hope not. A new, yet familiar voice sounded from the other side of the door. The two turned their heads to see Kakashi Haddock, his hand entangled by a 7-year-old boy with gravity-defying black hair and onyx eyes. A face mask was messily under his chin and ran around his neck. He had a bored expression on his face, but his eyes seemed annoyed at the book in Kakashi's hand. She is my wife, after all, Kakashi noted to Naruto, whose eyes bulged out at that revelation. Kakashi plus Shizune actually seemed impossible. They barely had any contact with each other when he had been here 10 years ago. Dusan, put down that book or I will tell Kachan about your MFFPHFF. He didn't finish as Kakashi dropped a hand over his mouth, clearly not wanting his wife to know about his secret something. You guys are weird, a small voice quipped. The adults and child turned to see Haku gone from his father's arms and playing a game of poker with Kyubp. I raised the stakes, the child said, returning to the game. Shizune and Kakashi sweat dropped as they witnessed the child playing poker with a mechanized soccer ball. Yeah, I win again. Haku exclaimed. Kyubp, you suck at gambling and card games. Naruto smiled as the cards were inserted into Kyubp. The mouth opened up and Haku just fed them to Kyubp. It was an infinite storage chest of toys, games, booze and Pocky in there. Naruto knew that much. He remembered a certain incident where he was trapped in Kyubp for a week because he had eaten a whole suitcase worth of Pocky. Hey, Obito, Kakashi spoke to his son. Why don't you take Chibanero out for a walk? You can go to the park. I hear there's a new ice cream stand there. Handing his son a wad of cash, Kakashi ushered him and signaled Chibanero out the door. The two complied, leaving the adults alone. When they were gone, Naruto turned to his old sensei with a harsh glare. You better not be here to guilt trip me into coming back, Haddock, or so help me God. Naruto, Kakashi began. Chill. The blonde raised an eyebrow. I don't want you to come back if you don't want to. I think you're better off in the wilderness, Kakashi stated. But you didn't have to spit in Tsunade's face. It may have proven a point, but it was a little over the top, don't ya think? Kakashi goaded. Shizune shifted nervously before speaking. I'm going to go get some coffee. Kashi, Naru, you want any Western tea? Milk, 3 sugars, please Shizune, Naruto said to her. Coffee, no sugar, no milk, Kakashi told his wife. Fine, but only 2 sugars for you, Naruto. As of now you are on a sugar-free diet, Shizune warned with a violent tone in her normally sweet voice. She was out of the door before either man could realize she was missing. Naruto bowed his head before looking Kakashi in the eye again. Will you stop looking at me with my shirt off? If you weren't married to Shizune I'd think you were perving on me. Just looking. You seem to have gotten fitter since you left. Must be the lack of ramen in your diet. They retreated into silence before Kakashi spoke once again to his ex-pupil. I miss you, the silver-haired Jounin said to Naruto. You miss me? Or what you used to do to me? Naruto added bitterly as he stared out of the window. Did it give you some sort of thrill embracing me and leaving me in the dust to train Sasuke? Or did you just feel good you were hurting the vessel of the nine-tailed fox? Kakashi shook his head, no. I miss the sunshine you brought into our lives. Suicide levels after failed missions has risen in the last 10 years. Apparently your pranks and attitude were the life and soul of a lot of people. Most are actually surprised and amazed that Sasuke, Sakura and Iruka have lasted this long without offing themselves. Naruto scowled before resting his chin against his chest. Who knew this village relied on stupid pranks to make themselves feel good about life? Pathetic Kakashi seemed to get a few degrees colder at that moment. It wasn't just the pranks Naruto. Oh really? What was it then? The beatings of a little kid who didn't know what the hell was going on. The jeering, the vicious glances, the stares, the pointing, the overpriced items, the faulty goods, the out-of-date milk. Any of those ring a bell Kakashi? Naruto was beginning to get hysterical. Kakashi saw this a mile off and lay a hand on Naruto's shoulder. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was hope. Hope? Naruto scoffed as he sneered. Hope of what? The death of the ultimate evil. The creature that ended the existence of countless shinobi. What hope Kakashi? The hope of a better tomorrow. Naruto snickered at his reply. That is some messed up crap Kakashi. Not to mention corny. Kakashi gripped Naruto's shoulder tighter. No Naruto, he lowered his face to eye level with Naruto. The hope that you can never give up, no matter what gets in your way. Hope that a dead last like you can defeat S-class ninja while still a genin. Hope that's always shining and always there no matter how much someone tries to snuff it out. Kakashi sounded desperate. How long did it take you to write and rehearse that? Naruto asked boredly. It was written by Iruka in 5 minutes and it took me 3 hours to rehearse it even with the Sharingan. How did you know someone wrote it and that I rehearsed it? The copycat ninja asked the blonde man. Naruto snickered before flicking Kakashi's nose. You really need some acting lessons. Naruto returned to his seat before clicking his Tanyuj. So, you and Shizune huh? Odd, I know. But after you left I was sort of in a slump. I spent all day and night at the memorial stone, I felt I had failed my entire team. You, Sakura, Sasuke. I couldn't take it anymore. Naruto intertwined his fingers with each other and put them under his chin. So what did you do? Go on a binge? Kakashi smiled underneath his mask before looking down shamefully. No. I tried to commit seppuku. Naruto's head shot up and his eyes widened in shock. You? Seppuku? Was my leaving that much of a disaster? Kakashi sat cross-legged on one of the hospital beds. No, it was terrible, but it was the final push I needed to send me straight off a cliff. It was only a month later that Shizune found me hanging from the Hokage monument. You didn't. I did. Shizune cut me down with her sebans and caught me. She then proceeded to heal all my neck wounds before pounding me, healing me, then repeating to process a couple of times. Naruto rolled his eyes. Well, she was Tsunade's apprentice. What do you expect? Granted, I would have done the exact same thing. I have no doubt you would have. You wouldn't have a little godson if I had been left hanging. Wait, what? Naruto asked. Godson. Well, Obito for one, Naruto the third for another. Kakashi and Naruto shivered. Even Naruto was afraid of the prospect of 3 Narutos whose pranking schemes were all on different wavelengths. Bad enough with shadow clones. It was either you, Guy, or Sasuke. You do the math. Naruto nodded in seeing the logic in that. It was either the green beast of youth or the emo Avenger. It made perfect sense, even Thaga he didn't know anything about it. Then you were the first in line for Gaara's kid. Gaara got married. Who? When? Oh, just some girl called Mitsuri or something. One of his old students. Goldish hair, spunky attitude, has an obsession with whips. Oh, Mitsuri-chan. I remember her. Right before I left for my training trip I was on a mission with Sand to get her back. Kakashi's eye looked up as if he were deep in thought. Oh, that mission. I remember that. I thought she was making eyes at you though. Anyway, the kid's a nightmare. Gaara's noticed how the kid uses sand jutsu and has been trying to get him to be a mednin. Gaara's son a mednin. I never thought I'd see the day. Yeah, and that Rasen Tsunaden is a boat. Rasen Tsunaden? A Rasengan made out of sand. My bad. I used it in front of him. I swear the kid was in Uchiha in his past life. Broke down the Rasengan training, mastered it and created an elemental version of it. But I don't think he would be able to beat you Mr. Rasengan on each digit. Oh. You heard about that? From the Rasengan fan club. I don't want to know. When Shizune finally returned with the tea she found Kakashi and Naruto talking about Obito Haddock. The little guy was 2 years older than Haku and was already a chunin, but had yet to make his first kill and was on extended leave until he was 12. So you named him after your best friend. I think Guy started sobbing his eyes out when you told him that. Kakashi snorted. Had I named him after him and let him know Uncle Guy I would probably try seppuku again, Shizune too probably. We're all dreading the day Tenten announces she's pregnant. Then we're building the panic rooms. Shizune served them tea and began to fill in the paperwork for Naruto's checkup. There's one thing still bugging me, Kakashi asked Naruto as the blonde sipped his tea. Yeah, what's that? Naruto asked his former sensei. Why don't you hate me like the others? Or Shizune? Shizune looked up from her work, wondering the same thing. Naruto sighed before swirling his tea. Truth is I'm still pissed at all of you. But since Shizune has Seiban and you have Rikiri, I am at your mercy, considering we're in a hospital room and I do better at long-ranged attacks. Were we not in this predicament I would probably be talking to you like scum. And I'm curious to how Konoha is these days. The two Jounin sweat dropped in I'm style at Naruto's explanation. He was just in bad conditions to be dealing with their tempers. That did nothing to boost their confidence that Naruto was actually starting to like them again. Haku grunted as Obito and the other Naruto dog piled him. Get off Yumino. Haddock. You weigh a lot. Get off now, Chibineru scowled. Haku's warning went unheeded until he began another of his techniques. Racing Yasagi. He called out. A white Rasengan formed in his palm with a spiraling tail. Run maggots, run, Haku threatened. The other two jumped off him and stepped back a couple of paces. The white Rasengan stopped after a while, showing a bunny's face. The ears were sharp but it was still cute. And deadly. What the hell is that? One of my kawaii ton jutsus, Haku told them, striking a cute pose. Kawaii ton? The two other boys asked in unison. Cute release jutsu, Haku said before going through more hand seals. Watch. Kawaii ton. Tiger suit. A puff of smoke later and Haku was dressed in a cute tiger suit. His face was revealed, but his nose was black and 3 lines were drawn across his face, obscuring his freckles and showing off a very cute kid and little early for Halloween. Look at that. Kawaii. Oh, he's so cute. I wonder who's the daddy. Or if he has a brother my age. You're 26, so? Haku looked around to see himself the center of attention for every woman in the park. The little guy blushed before forming his hands into a hand seal. Stop looking at me. Warwick no jutsu. Version pervy woman. Haku was replaced by well, I'll leave that up to your imagination. As soon as Naruto arrived with Kakashi on his heels, they looked around to see female bodies strewn everywhere, rivers of blood pouring out of their noses, and large puddles of blood scattered around the entire area. Kakashi took one look at the scene and stepped away from Naruto. Thank God you don't have any more of those things, he said as Naruto smacked his forehead. Haku, he breathed. Said child turned to see his father and broke out into a face-splitting grin. Tsunade, look. I caused mass mayhem and destruction. Can you teach me more of your jutsu now? Naruto began to bang his head on the nearby swing set. I should never bet against him. His luck is better than mine, Naruto said between hits. Kakashi looked to see Obito and Naru looking at Haku with stars for eyes. That was cool, Obito exclaimed. Kakashi suddenly had a really bad feeling. Hey, Chibineru-chan, Naru began as he ran up to the child. Can you teach me how to do that? Kakashi felt even more of a bad feeling crawling up his spine. With whatever jutsu Chibineru just preformed, Kakashi was sure it would be the end of Konoha as he knew it. Teach us how to do that. What did you call it? Warwick no jutsu. Version pervy woman. Naru asked, hanging on to Chibineru's arm. Kakashi froze in fear. If Shizune heard that Obito wanted to know a pervy jutsu, then she would not hurt her precious little boy. No. It would be his perverted father who would pay the ultimate price. No sex for numerous years, not even on special occasions. The Icha Icha Paradise set would be burned for a bonfire, and Obito could be witness to his father's checking into the witness protection program to get away from his psycho wife. The 3 boys laughed at the expressions of the faces of Kakashi and Naruto. Naruto's attitude could be described as murderous. He had just been informed that the village would not allow him to leave unless he fought and won all of the fights Tsunade had planned for him. Shizune cowered under his gaze as he glared murderously. The dark-haired woman had just been in a council meeting and was to inform Naruto of this development. When she exclaimed this, Naruto erupted and demanded to know why he was being kept here when he wasn't even a Konoha ninja. The explanation that his ninja license had been invoked caused a one-man riot. Naruto tore through the council chambers, threatening all of the members of the council to let him go. It was Hiashi Hyuga who managed to push into the yelling and explain to the once hyperactive ninja that the only way he would be allowed to leave was for him to fight and win all of his fights with the Konoha 12 nin and the other challengers that Tsunade had arranged to go up against him. The Hyuga had narrowly missed death by wind jutsu when Haku managed to calm his father down. The child had been an instant favorite with the council and ninja of Konoha. He was exactly like Naruto used to be, only with his charm more powerful, and his use in Kawaiian jutsu made him far more likable than Naruto could ever hope to be to anyone. The council were extremely thankful that Haku was there to calm down the living maelstrom before he tore through some of the members of the council. Dusan. What's the big deal? Haku had asked his father. All you have to do is kick these guys' asses and we can go. You can bet him. Auntie Kayu wouldn't let us be kept here anyway. You have to pay for his living. The freeloader would get mad if you didn't send your gambling money every week for him. He'd kill you if you lost, then he'd take us out of the village anyway. So fight him. I know you'll win, so what's the problem? That's the principle of the matter, Naruto fummed. I don't want to play by their rules. I stopped doing that the second I left this village 10 years ago. He turned to the council members, his eyes burning with rage. If I do this, it'd be like I was their lapdog again. I want freedom from this crap heap. It was a good thing that none of the council members spoke up at that moment. Shizune sat in the Hokage chair glancing nervously at the occupants of the room. Tsunade had refused to leave her room, so her assistant took on the duties of her master until further notice. Shizune finally spoke up by appealing to Naruto's fatherly nature. Chibimaru-kun is right, Naruto-san, she said, trying to use the right honorifics to sweet-talk him. Besides, why not fight? And if you lose it'd be a good thing for Chibimaru. Naruto's ears perked up and his eyes narrowed. What crap you selling? He asked the black-haired woman who shivered under his gaze. Well, Naruto, Chibimaru needs a lot more stability in his life. Going from one place to another and never stopping long enough to make friends is bad for a child at his age. It was, however, Chibimaru who spoke up. I make friends all the time. They're my pen friends. There's Uncle Ranmaru, Uncle Inari, Auntie Shion, Hitomi-chan, Megumi-chan, Haruka-kun, Meimo-kun, Yu-kun, Yugi-chan, Auntie Nariko and all my other pen friends. Well, that was a bust, the council members all thought in unison. What about his schooling? Kaharu asked, looking genuinely concerned. Toussaint teaches me. I know how to make clothes, fish, read and write, use a kunai, make seals, do hand seals, throw seben, use a tessin, fight with a katana, and tons of other stuff. And before Kosan went to meet Uncle Haku and all the others up in heaven with Kami-sama, she taught me how to cook, fight, swim, use my water chakra, and she let me sign her summoning contract. The contents of that speech caused some of the council members to begin to look at Haku like he was already a chunin. Those skills would be highly appreciated by many ninjas who worked in those fields. Lil Haku was a jack of all trades, but a master of few, or maybe a master of all, by the time he was 16 in 11 years' time. But it was the last part that got some of the council members curious. Chibimaru had signed a summoning contract with something other than his father's toad summonings. Questions circled in the council members' minds. What animal could Haku summon? Where did Isaribi get the summoning contract? Which level could Haku summon up to already? Since when could Isaribi summon? And one of the most impotent questions circled in the council members' minds. Why didn't Haku have the fabled toad summoning contract that his father, the Yondaime Hokage, and Jiraiya of the Sannin all possess? Chibimaru-kun, Shizune spoke. Why do you not have your father's summoning contract? She asked. Naruto looked at her as if she had two heads. Since when do I have a summoning contract? The others in the room other than Haku fell over in I'm style. Toussaint, you never told me you had a summoning contract. The child berated his father. Why didn't you tell me? Which animal is it? Naruto screwed his face up into an expression to show that he was thinking. Suddenly a light bulb went off in his head and he opened his eyes. Oh yeah, that summoning contract, the one for he said as he began to shake. Now this is irony, he stated before laughing nervously. Well, this is a tad problematic, he said in a southern accent. Nah. Toussaint. What animal can you summon? Oh, nothing special, Naruto said nervously. The Ashi Hyuga growled in anger. You call the summoning contract of two? He found his mouth covered by Naruto's hand. Don't say the T word. He exclaimed, looking at Haku fearfully. The child just looked confused at his father's actions. Did he not want to tell him what he could summon? Toussaint. What is it? The child demanded. Naruto looked at the council members in the room, begging them not to tell the child his summons with his eyes. Hiashi mumbled under Naruto's hand. The other members of the council turned to look at Hiashi, whose Byakugan gained a malicious tint. Naruto removed his hands before Hiashi spoke. Well. Looks like the ball is in our court now, he said darkly. All who caught the tone shivered. I can't use this to make you stay. You're too proud for that, but the others looked at him, seemingly able to catch on to Hiashi's way of thinking. If you agree to participate into challenges Tsunade-sama has organized for you, then none of us will tell Chibimaru-san what your summoning animal is, because for some reason or another you don't want him to know. Naruto saw his folly and groaned. He had given the council exactly what they needed. Leverage. Haku's schooling was taken care of. He had friends. He had minor stability, but the one thing he did not have was knowledge of Naruto's summoning animal. It was the one thing Naruto really wanted under wraps. Shit, the blonde said as he began to growl obscenities that would have made Taiya blush like a schoolgirl with a crush. Even after all this time, I am still a dope, Naruto muttered. Alright. If you all swear to me on the lives of your children and of the lives of your families, not to tell Chibimaru about my summons, I will participate in this challenge, for all the good it'll do you, smug bastards. Shizune sighed as Naruto and Haku left the council chambers, which now held council members with families on the line, and a way of securing that Naruto would fight the challenges. This was turning into hard work. No wonder Tsunade-sama gets so drunk often. Like the Naru guy says, troublesome Shizune thought as now she had an odd craving for sake. Sakura Haruno found herself accompanying Anne of the delegations who would be traveling to Konoha to go through war talks and agreements. Sakura found herself under the piercing eyes of the Godin Kazukiage as they approached the border between the land of fire and the land of wind. Accompanying the delegation of the cage were his wife, Mitsuri Sabaku, Kankuro Sabaku, a figure hidden under a sand-colored cloak, though Sakura did detect red hair when the wind blew into the person's face, Tsunade and Baki, and the Kazukiage's son, Maizo Sabaku, her number one fan. The little boy was adorable. Long blood-red hair that framed his sun-kissed skin, delicate aquamarine eyes flared, divided by a cute cut nose. His eyes were slightly dark-rimmed, and he, unlike his father who had none, had whisker-thin eyebrows above his eyes. Maizo wore black shinobi sandals, a pair of cream-white shinobi pants and a sandy-colored t-shirt with a cute image of a raccoon stitched on the front. At his sides he held two genie-like bottles made out of sand, probably where he got his emergency supply. Maizo held on to Sakura's back, seeing as she was apparently the best person in the delegation to talk about medical ninjutsu. The child was obsessed with it, just as bad as he was obsessed with sandcastles, sand angels, and having his own pet raccoon. Sakura-san. Can you show me more healing jutsu? Would Hokage-sama teach me her Genesis rebirth technique? Sakura looked pleadingly to Gaara and Mitsuri, both of who just innocently whistled on the wagon bound for Konoha. Sakura-san. Maizo began again. Any news from Konoha? He asked, mispronouncing Konoha. Did anything happen? Is there a new missing nin? Sakura sighed. You sure are a persistent little guy. Just like your dad, only he did it silently and killed whatever he was pursuing as soon as he could, she told him. Gaara smirked as Maizo looked up at his father. Sugoi, the small boy, said as he turned to Sakura again. Sakura was beginning to get tired from walking with the child on her back. Kankuro smirked from his place as the wagon driver. Betting a little much for you, Haruno? He asked snidely. The pink-haired medic growled something which only Maizo heard. He turned to his father with a confused expression. To-sama. What is a bloody SOB Enichwanab? Kankuro froze as Sakura turned to glare at both him and Maizo. If the Enichwanab was any clue, Kankuro decided he needed to guard his family jewels more carefully with the medic here. But Suri growled as Gaara remained impassive. Baki roared in laughter from where he stood at the side of the wagon. The robed figure remained silent as the grave, knowing of this woman's temperament from legends and rumors, spread throughout the elemental nations, and wishing not to be on the receiving end of that. Sakura growled. Seriously? I wish you were more like Haku. Naruto got off easy when he had him, he murmured under her breath. Sakura-san. Who is Haku? And what do you mean by Naruto? Stop listening in on me or I'll give you first-hand experience in being an Enich, never mind you being 5 years old. She screeched at the child, almost needing someone to hold her down before she castrate one of the people she was meant to be keeping safe. However, Maizo had been loud enough for Gaara to hear with his excellent hearing. The others were just laughing. As they reached the shade of fire country, Gaara ordered they rest. When Baki opposed this, a single glance from the Kazukiage silenced him. If the Kazukiage wanted to rest, then the Kazukiage will rest, no opposition from any of his subordinates. Kankuro and Baki settled down to a game of poker, whilst Cloaked Man went to search around the area in which they rested. Maizo and his mother remained on the wagon as the sandy-haired woman began to read a story to her little angel. Gaara made his way to where Sakura sat. What did you mean by Haku and Naruto? He asked her dangerously. Sakura froze, but did not face him. Oh, nobody. You know Iruka's kid Naruto and his friend Haku. Yeah, that's right, Gaara sat next to her. I can tell you're lying. You meant Naruto Uzumaki, didn't you? Who is Haku? He asked. Sakura continued to just sit there with a medical book in her hands. As Kazama, this is not the time to be speaking of such things. She began to get up and leave, but Gaara-san grabbed her arm. Sakura remained silent but did nothing, not wanting to alert the others. I'll ask this once and only once, he commanded dangerously. Do you know where Naruto Uzumaki is? Sakura looked down shamefully. She was about to tell a foreigner about the secret they had been trying to keep under wraps. Well, Gaara is the cage of an ally village, maybe it'd be okay. So long as he doesn't tell Tsun-sama. I opened by big mouth. Tsunade-sama wanted him back, the council too. We retrieved him, but he insists he hates us. He spat in Tsunade-sama's face. Gaara's eyes widened slightly and his pupils narrowed. Haku is a nickname. A middle name, in fact. We call him Chibanera not to confuse him with his father. Naruto is Chibanera's father. Naruto's a daddy. They're both in Konoha currently. It was supposed to be kept secret. The allies were only to know once they were in Konoha's walls. We're trying to get Naruto to rejoin. But for him to leave, he must fight and win all the fights Tsunade-sama has arranged for him. Gaara-san retreated and he stood up abruptly. Mitsuri, Kankuro, Baki, Aka-san, Maizo. We leave for Konoha now, he ordered, San shunshining onto the wagon once again as the cloaked figure returned and the others looked up with confusion. Hurry up. He ordered. Currently Naruto was playing babysitter to Haku and his two new friends, sending death glares to any of the Konoha 12 who approached him, and sending silent warnings to women who pointed out that Haku looked cute for their own safety. It was difficult dealing with a 5-year-old who could send you into a coma should you even attempt to call him cute when he doesn't want you to comment. Obito and Naru hadn't left Haku's side since they had all met a couple of days ago, except for dinner. In that time the young child had taught his two new friends how to use Warwick no Jutsu and two Kawaii Jutsus. Naruto did nothing to stop him, figuring the village could do with a bit of chaos from the special hentai jutsu. Far from the quartet of Warwick users stood a pale-eyed Kunoichi looking down at Naruto from one of the buildings. Next to her stood her cousin, Niji. Both had activated Byakugan scanning and keeping an eye on the blonde rogue. Naruto-kun looks good with his hair in a top knot, Hinata commented half-heartedly. Niji repressed the urge to sigh. For 10 years Hinata had begun making waves in the clan of Hyuga. First was the abolition of the cage bird seal, replacing it instead with a seal on the hand, which could only be used by the head Hyuga and the person that held the seal. All members of the Hyuga were required to wear this, marking them as equals and taking away the threat that the main branch family held over the cadet branch. Secondly was the introduction of ninjutsu, jinjutsu, medical training and weapons training in the Hyuga clan. Hinata had made a case that the lack of these and the sole reliance of the Jayukin was making the clan weak. A quick demonstration where a couple of Jounin from the village beat the Hyuga's Jayukin. Needless to say the Jayukin lost its importance in the Hyuga ranks as it became known only as the clan's common taijutsu. Next came that males could marry out of the family on the grounds that it was only women who had the ability to pass on the Byakugan. It was usable by both genders, but a male could not pass on the Byakugan. It was a woman's duty to pass on the Byakugan. The women of the Hyuga clan were told that their husbands were to marry into their clan so as not to lose the fabled bloodline. Fourthly was the addition of a summoning contract introduced into the clan and given only to those of any rank who showed unto the head of the clan the strength of their will and the strength of their hearts, as Hinata put it. The summoning contracts was one with sharks, a little gift Hinata was able to wrangle out of Kisame before she took his sword in rage and rammed it right up his butt using Kakashi's legendary taijutsu technique, cutting the fish man in half down the middle and giving her the right to the sword, which now hung in the relic shrine in the Hyuga compound. Niji smiled at the irony. Hinata said that all this was done because Naruto was her encouragement and she wanted him to see her great achievements for the clan when she said he would return. Niji distinctly remembered Naruto saying that he would change the way the Hyuga was run for the better when he became Hokage. It was ironic that he did nothing but encourage someone to grow a backbone and change the clan themselves, so in an odd way, Naruto fulfilled his promise to change their clan. Now Hinata had reverted back the way when she was a young girl and the stuttering returned whenever Naruto was around. As Shikamaru would say, troublesome. The two Hyugas had been assigned to keep an eye on Naruto in case he was attacked by any villagers wanting to get back at him for letting out Kyuubi. From what Naruto had told Haku and from what Niji lip read from that conversation, Kyuubi himself was coming to Konoha to witness the fights. Niji couldn't wait to see what was going to happen when the demon fox arrived. Would it attack? Would it just walk right through? And who was the redhead who looked like the yondaime who was currently strangling Naruto? Naruto! Hinata exclaimed as she and Niji leapt from their places on the roof. It took a total of 5 seconds before they saw that the red-headed man was using a wrestling move on Naruto. Naruto lay on his stomach on the floor, the redhead sitting on his back, pulling Naruto's right leg back, threatening to break it. Haku was watching, laughing and pointing at his father. "Say, you're sorry," the redhead demanded. Ouch. Hiri, stop that, ow. Kaiu, come on, forgive me," Naruto begged. "Auntie Kaiu. Leave Tsunade alone," Haku told the person he called Auntie Kaiu. Niji and Hinata looked at each other with confused looks. Niji shrugged as the redhead finally got off Naruto. "What have I told you about calling me that? Don't call me auntie. But you look so ladylike," Chibineru quipped. Auntie Kaiu lunged at Chibineru and would have hurt him had Naruto not grabbed him by the legs and began pulling him away from the child. "Naruto," Niji called. The three turned to look at Niji and Hinata. "What the hell is going on here? We thought you were being attacked. And who is this man?" the redhead growled. "Can kid. Can't you see we're having a family reunion? Beat it. Scram. Shoo," he said, brushing his hand away from himself as if brushing away crumbs. "Who the hell are you?" Niji demanded. It was then that Kakashi and Iruka showed up with Shizune and Anko right behind them. "Niji, who is this and why was he attacking Naruto?" Kakashi asked, pulling out a kunai. "I was attacking him because Genius here got caught by you people. He's such an idiot. And does he even bother to send me a message by mail or Kyuubi? No. I have to hurry on over to Konoha, leaving my precious farm in the hands of a party animal, all to save his sorry ass," the man shouted, "so excuse me if I can't attack my godson's father." Niji's face drew blank. Your godson's father? Wait, you mean Chibineru is your godson? How do you know the Uzumakas? Niji demanded, dropping into a battle stance. The redhead rolled his eyes. People in this village want all the details, can I just give a CliffNotes version? Well, tough shit anyway. Tsunade felt a familiar force around the redhead. Kakashi, Iruka, Shizune and Anko also knew this feeling, but couldn't place it. The memory of this aura was lost in the vaults of their perverted Kakashi, medicine-full Shizune, schooling Iruka, psychotic Anko, minds. I know Haku because I was there when he was born. He still has my chakra running through him. And I was there when Naruto was born. I also spent 18 years sealed up inside that guy's gut. The only good thing about it is that I got a good supply of ramen. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. I am the ex-king of demons, an ex-demon, Kyuubi no Kitsune of the great Biju, now who are mostly extinct as pure demons, me especially. Sakura collapsed on the sofa outside Tsunade's office as the Kazekage talked with the Hokage. She expected a town lashing from her master when this was over. Sakura winced as the door slammed open. Fortunately for her, it was the door into the reception office. There in the doorway stood Kakashi, Shizune, Iruka, Anko, Chibineru, Neru, Obito, Naruto and a red-hair man who looked strikingly like the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Sakura, get the Hokage now, Kakashi said firmly and forcefully. The redhead was bound up as Sakura looked at him. She couldn't help but blush at his handsome features. Yo, the redhead told her as Anko dragged him along by a rope made of a snake, a python to be exact. Sakura banged on the door to the Hokage's office. Come in, her master called. Kakashi and the others pushed past Sakura, followed by Naruto and the children. Sakura followed only to meet with the Kazekage, his wife, son, brother, sister, brother-in-law, ex-sensei, guard, Hiashi Hyuga, Hamura, Kaheru, Tsuminyazuka, Shibi Aburam, Ino and Sai, Chauza Akimichi and Konohamaru Sarutobi. You know it's really getting cramped in here, Tsum commented. Leave Auntie Kayu alone, you psycho snake bitch. Haku demanded, ramming his small fists into Anko's legs. Don't call my Ka-san a psycho snake bitch. Neru defended. She's hurting my Auntie Kayu. Damn it, Haku. It's Uncle Kayu. Get it through your thick skull. I know it's not as thick as your father's. That was uncalled for, Kayu. Go screw a pocky stick. Don't swear in front of children. Why are we yelling? Mizo asked, joining in. Everyone turned to look at the little child whose face broke out into a cheeky grin. Naruto and Kyuubi looked down at Mizo with curious eyes. Oh shit, it's Shukaku as a kid, only this time he has red hair. What happened, Shukaku? Get shrunk by messing with my stuff again? Kyuubi asked the child. Hey, I'm not Shukaku. I'm Mizo. Who's the kid's parents? He thinks he's a ramen flavor. Naruto asked around the room. No, my name is Mizo. Who are you? Mizo demanded. Kyuubi looked at Naruto and shrugged. Haku has some resemblance to me when I was a kid, so it's probably the same with the kid of the Shukaku's Jinchuriki. Probably, Naruto agreed. Tsunade looked at Naruto. Well, she didn't look at Naruto, she kept her head down and her eyes under her forehead. She had not forgotten the look he had given her when he had spat in her face, the look of pure rage and anger. She doubted he would forgive her. But now was not the time. Kakashi, why have you come into my office with this man? She asked. This is no man, Hokage-sama, Kakashi told her. Of course I am. If he isn't a man, then is he a woman? No, a demon. What? This man is the Kyuubi no Kitsune. These people are very antisocial, Kyuubi stated as he sat back to back with Naruto on a prison chair, both bound by chains and various other means of escape prevention. No wonder Orochimaru wanted to get rid of these people. They were rivals in the art of anti-socialism. Beneath their feet was a drawn chakra Successor. The two men were growing tired with every ounce of chakra they tried to use. You're telling me? I don't even know why I'm tied up. And what's happening to Chibineru? Naruto asked Sasuke, who stood guard over the duo. Sasuke sneered at Naruto and walked over to him. You really are a dope, the dark-haired Uchiha gloated. Putting a child in the care of a demon. Ex-demon, thank you very much, Kyuubi quipped. Sasuke ignored him, or tried to anyway. I wonder who will win our little battle next month, Naruto-kun. MONTH. That scheming old bitch. When I get my hands on her, you'll what, dope? Sasuke asked. Kill her? Beat the hell out of her? Sasuke took pleasure in goading Naruto to lose his cool. When we have our battle, it'll be interesting to see who will be victorious. Naruto raised a blonde eyebrow at the bastard who stood before him. What do you mean, shit face? The blonde asked. Naruto had to hand it to him, the Uchiha knew how to keep his cool. Sasuke smirked and stepped away from Naruto. Well, your furry little friend. Who you calling furry little, duck butthead? Kyuubi demanded, struggling against his chains. As I was saying, you no longer have his power to rely on anymore, Naruto. It's all just you. I want to know how strong you are now. You gonna rely on your hickey from the pedophile? Naruto asked, shooting a smirk at Sasuke. The dark-haired Uchiha grinned before dropping to eye level. I no longer have the curse seal anymore, dope. Just like you no longer have the power of the king of Biju. It's interesting about them actually. The chibi through to Shichibi were either returned to some of their containers, reviving them, or they were destroyed if there were no Jinchuriki body waiting for them. Hachibi remains a Jinchuriki, but Kyuubi, the king of all Biju, is now a humble farmer, trapped in a clone. I must admit that blood clone jutsu you created is really surprising. How do you know what it's called? Naruto demanded, struggling against his bonds. Sasuke smirked. Ino. Remember, she was in your head. She learned about a couple of your jutsu. Fueton. World shaking, Fueton. Boom bubble, spiral twister, winds of protection, healing winds, diamond storm, Kahenkyu, fox leaf arrowhead, foxtail inferno, dragon wheel, spirit strike, amethyst wind, rice cord medalla, talisman shield, fox seal, Kasenjeki, Tahaken, Banhitsusen, and the one you used against Chouji, Sasuke said, ticking his fingers as he listed each one. Interesting, Ino was very descriptive of these, but I can't copy them by just listening. And I still don't know the fabled Rasengan. So I'll be having loads of fun at our battle, just don't forget any jutsu. Why did you waste time just listing my jutsu team? Naruto scowled. Isn't it bad enough I'm in this hellhole you call a home, but you have to be all high and mighty by coming into my personal space and pissing me off. Sasuke turned and threw a smirk at the two. Have fun, the Kazuki-jin Hokage should be along any minute for you, he said. The door closed and Kyuubi screamed. I hate him, 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 the redhead cried. He knew all about your jutsus. Kill that Ino girl when you fight her. Make her pay, that damn bitch. Doesn't she know better than to tell the Uchiha kid when you fight him take out those eyes of his? I forever regret giving my second vessel the Sharingan. It was true. Centuries ago the Kyuubi had been trapped in a couple of vessels, giving each one a bloodline limit. Among them were the Sharingan, the Byakugan and the Dead Bone Pulse. Naruto had been his 9th Jinchuriki, having killed all of his other vessels long after they had procreated. He hated them all. The descendants of most of them too. Except for probably the Hyugas and Shibaneru. Naruto growled. If Haku is hurt in any way, I'm going to pull an Itachi on a grand scale, and the village hidden in the leaves will be nothing more than a sentence in an old history book, Naruto exclaimed. Kyuubi nodded, suddenly realization dawned on him. Naruto. Why haven't you used Flash Step to get out of here? The redhead asked. Naruto furrowed his brow deeply. He looked right into Kyuubi's eyes and said, I've been trying to, but it's like I've suddenly become like Rock Lee. I can't use my chakra. You don't think they've put a seal on you? If they had, then someone has to be maintaining it and something must be hiding it. I can't use any of my jutsu. Not even my chakra control exercises. Walking on water was a flump, I could grasp the tree, my punch isn't strong enough, I don't even want to try walking on air. It's like I haven't even got any chakra. Kyuubi scowled. This is bad. Do you think they intend to keep you here and use that seal to cause you to lose your fights so they'll have you in the palm of their hands? I don't think they put it one Haku. He can use his Kawaii Ton Jutsu and the Hentai Jutsus with no problems. I think they didn't know he could use chakra. The door opened as Naruto finished. He turned to scowl, but came face to face with his old friends and fellow Jinchuriki. Gaara of the Sand. Kazuki of Wind Country's hidden shinobi village, Tsunade no Sato. Next to him stood his clocked guardian Tsunade. At his legs was a child clinging onto his legs. Naruto was given a minute before he got the wind knocked out of him by Chibineru, who had headbutted his stomach. Tusan. Anti-Kayu, the child cried. What have I told you about calling me that? Haku simply dug his face into his father's stomach. Already Naruto could feel the shirt getting damp from the child's tears. Haku. SHHSSHH, Naruto spoke. He planted his chin on top of Haku's head as if he were hugging the child. He probably would be had he not been tied up. Kyuubi rolled his eyes at the scene. Someone please get me a barf bag, he said to the other 4 others in the room. Hey, old hag, you got a barf bag I could use? This mushy stuff is putting me to an early grave. Tsunade's features grew darker and she sneered at the red-headed man. You wish. I have half a mind to tie you up in the middle of the square right now and let the villagers have their way with you, she said maliciously. Kyuubi narrowed his eyes at her as she walked up face to face with the prisoner. Demon, she called him. Kyuubi snorted. Tsu babe, I haven't been a demon in nearly a decade. I'm all man now. As powerful as 3 cages, but all man. Maybe you'd like to see how much of a man I am, he said to her. Tsunade recoiled backwards. Are you flirting with me? She asked him. Naruto and Haku snickered from where they sat. And what if I am? Kyuubi asked as slyly as only a fox can. Tsunade responded by punching him in the face, sending him flying into the wall behind them. Then I would have to do something like that, she said, cracking her knuckles meaningly. Naruto's attention returned to Haku, who began pulling on the hem of the red jacket Naruto always wore. Tusan. Everyone's being mean to me, the little child said as tears began to swell up in his eyes. Obito team and Naru team say Anti-Kayu is a demon and Naru team is blying me because I called his Kasen a bitch when she heard Anti-Kayu. Now people are talking and saying mean things about Anti-Kayu. Let him say it. I have nothing to hide. They can all go screw pocky sticks for all I care, Kyuubi exclaimed as Tsunade dragged his chair back into the center of the interrogation room. Haku however continued to tear up. But it's upsetting, he sniffed. Tsunade, let me out of here. I'm gonna do an Itachi on a grand scale. Not on my watch, you're not, demon, Tsunade growled. Haku clung on to his father. Tusan, Aba-chan is hurting Anti-Kayu. Tsunade froze before pouncing on Haku. Ooh, you called me Ba-chan. Come on Haku-chan, Granny's gonna teach you how to drink sake. She picked up Haku before turning away. Don't even think about it. I'm supposed to teach him how to drink when he's old enough, Kyuubi demanded, struggling. Tsunade however ignored him. Her face displayed a look of euphoria, as if she had been drugged with pure tranquility. Her eyes sparkled and she had a skip in her step. At that moment she forgot what Naruto had done to her to spend time with her now appointed surrogate grandson. Is she even listening to me? Kyuubi asked. Naruto shook his head. Let him go, Hokage. He's my son, leave him be, Naruto tried to order the old woman. Shit, she has that look. Naruto was referring to the look women got when Haku said something cute either to them or about them in their presence. She'll be out of it for a couple of hours. Suddenly Naruto noticed another person in the room. Gaara? Naruto asked his old friend. The red flashed a small smile before the child in front of him, the child who had been at the meeting, pounced on Naruto. Nah. You're Naruto Ituji. Your hair isn't as messy as the photos. Tusan said you liked orange. Why aren't you wearing orange? Do you want to go get ramen? I love ramen. I know lots and lots of jutsu. Do you know any jutsu? The child was cut off by his father. Mizo, that is enough. You're not giving him enough time to answer any of your questions. Take a deep breath and speak slowly and clearly, the Kazekage told his son as he kneeled down, putting a comforting hand on the child's back. Naruto raised a blonde eyebrow. Mizo? He asked, profoundly confused by the sand child's name. Gaara looked up at Naruto with a sparkle in his eye. Tuchi-san said it was your favorite flavor of ramen. I believe that you obtained your attitude from being named after ramen, so I have named my son accordingly. I see Yamino, Naruto and your son share in these qualities. I believe I was right. Tsunade, Kyuubi and Naruto heard this and sweat dropped. It was the curse of the ramen-related name. Hyperactive, loud, boisterous and somewhat annoying. It was probably worse as Gaara and his village probably encouraged it. Hey, Naruto Ituji, can me and Haku Atoko go play? Tusan, Hakufu, Haku-chan. Please? Mizo asked. Naruto looked at Gaara. What is it with him calling me uncle and Haku his cousin? Gaara shook his head. I have no idea. Then again, I don't understand a lot about Mizo. I blame Cage Ship. Is there even such a word? There is now. Naruto turned to Tsunade. That's another reason why I don't want to be Hokage. I'd never have any time for just me and Haku. Tsunade growled at him. Listen pest, it's mostly paperwork anyway, Naruto scoffed at her. Tsunade glowered at him. Even after all these years you still haven't figured it out? He asked her. Pitiful Tsunade, for the moment, forgot about the shamefulness she had been feeling since she had first re-encountered Naruto and retorted into his face. Well, if you're so high and mighty, mind telling me how to solve that problem? She asked. All Naruto replied with was two simple words. Shadow clones. Tsunade smacked her face and began to storm off. But before she could open the door, Naruto called out to her. Hey, all hag. Tsunade hoped that Naruto would give her a smile and say it was good to see her again and to say he missed her. She turned around with a smile on her face. Yes, she asked expectantly. Care to put down Haku-chan? I don't think he can take the mental trauma of people being punched 8 ways from Monday. Tsunade noticed the little boy still in her arms, who incidentally was nearly falling asleep in her girls. She blushed a little red before patting Haku on the back and placing him down on the floor where Mizo grasped onto him. Come on Haku-chan. We gotta go. I know this place near Auntie Tima's place, it sell all these wicked mangas. There's one about an orange-haired guy who's a Shinigami and another about a magical girl with super cards. The blonde-haired child was dragged out by the red-haired one at breakneck speed. Naruto turned to Gaara and gave him a smile. That reminds me of me and you. Only the blonde was happy and the redhead was unsure. Gaara nodded before creating a chair out of his sand and sitting on it. Now it is in reverse, the Kazekage noted to his old friend. So, how's Shukaku these days? Still yelling? Kyuubi asked about his fellow ex-demon lord. Gaara turned to the fellow redhead before speaking once again. He is silent for the most part. I still despise the fact that he in within me again. But I am sure it was needed to stop Akatsuki and anyone else for sharing my fate. He returned his gaze towards Naruto. So you are to participate in this tournament within 1 month's time? Gaara asked. They blackmailed me. How? The other two asked. I summons the toads. I forgot I had them, idiot, and they're using that as an advantage. Kyuubi, you know all about Haku and toads. I can't tell him that. I can't let him know. It would be a disaster, Naruto admitted. Kyuubi nodded whilst Gaara looked confused. Naruto. What is it with Haku and toads? The blonde motioned for Gaara to lean in closer. The Kazekage complied and the blonde whispered in his ear. Oh, Gaara exclaimed. Whispers followed them down the street. People pointed at the two little boys, one with scarlet-like hair that hung down his head and framed his face, the other with blonde hair and a top knot and two red bangs tied up into that knot to give him small horns made of hair. They looked so adorable, which many pointed out, but yet they were contaminated by being around demons and Jinchuriki so much. Haku glanced nervously as Obito Haddock and Naruyamino glared at them as the Konoha native children chewed on dango. Mizo ignored them, knowing full well that he usually got those glances from people whenever he and his father visited an ally village. But Haku was different. He had grown up being loved and cared for by his father and whoever he had met on his travels. To have someone giving you stares full of hatred was frightening and disheartening. Especially if you are only 5 years old. Haku could feel the tears beginning to swell up in his eyes. Mizo, however, was oblivious to his friend's plight to fight back the burning hot tears, which would soon begin to roll down his face. Nah, Haku-kun, not long now, Mizo told him as they passed by a dark-haired man. He looked in their direction, curiously narrowing his gray eyes. Next to him a brown-haired woman clung onto his arm. At their feet a 5-year-old boy looked over, following the dark-haired man's gaze. Tsunade, he spoke. Who were those? Naruto rubbed his wrists as he was released from his bonds. Kyuubi muttered something along the lines of lucky bastard, but with a little more swear words that could ever be written down in a tier-rated fanfic. Relax, Kyu, when this is all over we'll go back to the farm, you can go back to throwing parties and living off my money, Naruto assured him. He didn't notice or pretended anyway, the looks on the council members' faces when they had come to release Naruto. You're lucky I'm human now, or I'd kill you all. Shut up, Kyu. Most of your chakra resides in me and Haku now anyway. Besides, you don't know any jutsus other than the hell portal. The council members looked at each other with worried eyes. Naruto did notice this and let a smirk escape his lips. Just you wait, Uzumaki. Oh, I'm shivering in my boots. Anbu began to lead Naruto away as Kyuubi began singing to annoy his guards. I know a song that'll get on your nerves, get on your nerves, get on your nerves. I know a song that'll get on your nerves, and you'll all go mad. The blonde rolled his eyes as the door shut behind him. Gaara followed, accompanying the blonde out of the Anbu Detainment Center. So where to next? Haku and Mizo could be anywhere. Naruto asked Gaara as they stepped out into the open sun. I don't know. The manga store, next to the gateway to the Nara Ranch, Gaara informed Naruto as they began to walk. Nara Ranch, but Mizo said something about Auntie Tem. Oh, I was right. Shikamaru and Temari did get together. I knew it. Kyuubi owes me $50, Gaara rolled his eyes. Why do I get the feeling that it was your good luck that got them married? Because it was probably a dominant factor. That and I remember Tsunade betting they'd never get together. When you think about it, you can blame me, the old hag, and your sister and brother-in-law. Let me guess, you had to pay for the wedding. That woman wanted a 10-foot-tall wedding cake, a horse carriage, a honeymoon in Twa country, a new dress and a large ceremony. Of course I had to pay for it. The bride's family always have to pay, according to her. Naruto snickered, seeing a tick mark on Gaara's forehead. When your face goes like that, you remind me of Pinky. This continued to cause Gaara's tick to enlarge. Come on, before Haku tries to use Warwick no Jutsu on someone who give him a funny look. Arg, someone yelled as numerous fountains of blood spurted through the air of Konoha. The late Naruto stated as the two ran after where the blood originated. Mizo stood in awe at the parade of naked men and women Haku had conjured up with one hand. Seal. Bakas. The blonde cried as countless bodies lay on the ground, occasionally twitching. Mizo watched as Haku's hinged clones disappeared and one Haku stood where about 30 naked people had previously been before. That was awesome, Haku-kun. Do it again. But I'm tired, Haku whined to his self-appointed cousin. Come on, Haku Ikoto. Party pooper, Mizo declared as the two continued to walk away down the street. Haku didn't feel like whining. It was 5 minutes later that the two of them found themselves standing outside a purple-roofed building with a cardboard cutout of an orange-haired guy in a black kimono holding a sword that was really big. Haku looked at it and smiled. They have the new bleached tankobon, he exclaimed to Mizo. You get to read them? Haku nodded in reply. Mizo pouted, aggravated. That's bull. Tsunade won't let me anywhere near it and no one will sell it to me cause I'm not over 12. Haku saw the look in his friend's face before he grew a nasty smirk across his delicate features. Henge. Now instead of Haku stood a 12-year-old version of Naruto with wild hair and the two bangs framing his face. The triad of dots were still on his cheeks, but he now wore a pair of blue jeans that civilians like to wear, with those things called sneakers, a black cotton shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the elbows. Over that was a buttoned-up silk shirt in orange. You guys were waiting for an Uzumaki in orange. I was, with those sleeves rolled up to his biceps. Although he looked like his father, he had a more Bishonen appearance than anyone else. Mizo caught the devilish smirk plastered on the lips of the older version of Haku. The blonde walked right into the manga store to be greeted by the vast array of DVDs and tankobon volumes. Mizo followed him in and felt shivers run up his spine. Mizo Haku spoke. How much money do you have on you? He asked. Mizo looked at him before responding 3 ryo. It was quite a bit, but Haku pulled out a whale-shaped wallet. It bulged and seemed to nearly rip from the seams. Haku opened it to reveal that the only thing in there were notes of ryo. Oh, we're gonna have some fun, Haku said. 20 minutes later, Mizo and the older Haku walked out with arms full of DVDs and tankobons. Mizo somehow managed to carry the entire collection of the first 7 seasons of Bleach DVD, a stack of Rayearth and Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles tankobon volumes. It was amazing how a 5-year-old could carry that much. Haku however carried a lot more: Bleach tankobons, DN Angel, and a manga series called Fushigi Yugi Genbu Kaiden. Wow, Haku-kun, you haven't even dented your wallet, Mizo noted. It's only my allowance for the last 3 weeks, Haku replied. Mizo's eyes grew wide. Nani? Haku smiled down on Mizo. My 2 cent gambles for a living. I get an allowance of 4 ryo every week. We Uzumakis have the luck of leprechauns and honest casinos, and we both know that an honest casino is rare. Haku remained in his adult form as they walked through the streets, causing some people to stop, stare and act like human Venus flytraps. Haku looked gorgeous in his teen form. Suddenly Haku felt the urge to transform himself into his gruesome old man self, the one that repels people from Oglinfadom. However soon Naruto and Gaara showed up. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Haku disappeared in a plume of smoke to reveal Chibineru. Gaara noticed the purchases that were stacked in Mizo's arms. Mizo, did you spend all of your money at that otaku shop? Gaara asked dangerously. Mizo desperately shook his head. No, 2-san. Haku-kun paid for it all. He said their make-up birthday presents. We need to get him some stuff as well. Gaara looked over to Naruto, who held up his arms from the elbow down and shrugged. Haku just smiled sheepishly. Well, I had to, Gaara-sama. Mizo is being so nice to me. And friends buy friends gifts to show friendship. Nariko told me that. Nariko is a shopaholic, a kleptomaniac and a materialist prima donna, Haku-chan, Naruto replied. Of course he said that. Still, it is nice of you to do that. Naruto rubbed his son's hair, which was now once again contained by the hairband that had constantly been on his head. Why don't you ever let your hair down, Chibineru? Naruto asked. You looked goof with it all messy. But I want to be like 2-san. Chibineru whined. Naruto gave his son a sweet smile before picking up his son, letting the collection fall to the ground. Say, Chibineru, where is Kyubi? As if on K, the floating fox head-like soccer ball appeared in a sound that was reminiscent of a firework. Kyubi, can you take care of this stuff, please? Naruto asked the floating object. The bowl opened where the mouth was painted on and sucked the tankobon and DVDs into its mouth. Our stuff. Mizo cried. Chibineru chuckled. Naruto knelt down and patted Mizo on the head. Don't worry, Mizo-chan. Kyubi's special. You could put all of Konoha and Suna in its mouth, everything within the walls, heck even the walls themselves, and they's barely make a dent in it. It's a pocket dimension. It grows every time Haku's birthday rolls around. Don't worry, it's nice in there. One time I spent a month in there with Haku as a holiday. That was true. Naruto and Haku had accidentally sucked in an uncharted island and had stayed in Kyubi for a month. The island was still in the ball. Kyubi can change into anything Haku wants. It only works for him. Kyubi recognizes his chakra and it reads his mind to find out what he wants. It's really cool. Gaara looked at Naruto strangely. Let me guess, you're Biju? Yep. Don't you think Shikaku would have done the same for Mizo? Don't see why not. The demon containers love the kids of their Jinchuriki. Yujito-chan told me that Nibi spoils Usagi-chan constantly. How is Yujito and Usagi anyway? Gaara asked. Naruto shrugged. Fine. They're in the land of demons now. She was a mercenary until 2 years ago. Now she's just stud farmer. The four walked down the road with Kyubi in Haku's arms. Naruto, do you have anywhere to stay tonight? Gaara asked out of the blue. Naruto shook his head. Nah. We've spent most of our time in the Anbu headquarters. I was supposed to ask for a place from the Hokage, but I forgot with Kyubi and everything. Gaara nodded. Why? Gaara looked into his friend's face. I was wondering if you would like to spend the night at the Cage Suite in our hotel. Kankuro is staying with Tamari. Our bodyguard is to escort Mitsuri back home tonight. She is needed to organize our genin exam in 3 days. We have the room, you can have one of the other rooms, and Mizo can share with Haku. He has never had a slumber party before and I think it would be beneficial for them to have child time as long as I can be sure they'll be safe. You are talking about a child who can manipulate sand to kill and shield instantly and another, your own son, who could possibly massacre Konoha with that hentai jutsu of yours or persuade any foes to turn themselves in with his kawaii jutsu. Oh, you heard about that. I advise you not to allow any young women who are partial to cute children near your son. Or, when he is older, not to let him near any hormonal teenager, male or female. All the while Haku and Mizo were oblivious to the adults' chatter as they read through a chapter of Genbu Kaden. Wow, he has to control the one by turning into a girl. Haku said. Sugoi. Can you do that as Warwick-chan? Mizo asked. Haku replied negatively. Ayubi stood in front of Tsunade with a sly smirk. He had been released by the Hokage to answer questions. So far the blonde woman found herself blushing, nose bleeding, sweating, stuttering and all the while getting generally aroused by the ex-demon lord who had explained in the sexistly Hansed way that he was remorseful for his actions and wished to be forgiven for his crimes against the people of Konoha. Now he just stood there as Tsunade explained to the council the situation. Kyuubi had come clean about his power. He and Naruto had lied about the power of 3 cages and admitted that it was on the level of a Sannin. A couple of council members breathed a sigh of relief at this, but some were still cautious. But Kyuubi reminded them that he only knew the Hell Portal Jutsu, reserved for demons or ex-demons only. The council members soon left leaving Tsunade alone with Kyuubi. As the door closed he leaned down face to face with her. Well Tsu-chan, you wanna go get something to eat? He asked sexily. You know the voice that makes your legs go weak and your teeth to chatter. That voice. The voice that made Tsunade consider the offer before she punched. No. I have work to do. Paperwork. Use the shadow clones. If Shizune can create a small regiment, then I'm pretty sure you can do almost as many as her, if not more. I have a meeting. With who? No one else is coming into Kano today, and a clan meeting hasn't been arranged. How do you know that? You people really need to buff up your security around record rooms. Before I went to see Naruto I got details on every mission you ever went on. By the way, loved the picture of you dressed as Sailor Moon. Why ever did you cut your hair? We had to infiltrate a cosplay convention where our target was. Still, Jiraiya didn't need to add a picture of you in the report, though I must congratulate him on getting a shot of your strawberry printed underwear. What? And Orochimaru as Sailor Neptune and him as Sailor Uranus. Awkward. I knew Orochimaru had a thing for dressing like a girl but Jiraiya. Those shots were fantastic. Kyuubi however found himself up against the wall held by the fist of a pissed of Hokage. Hey now don't do something you're gonna regret. How am I gonna regret castrating you? She asked venomously. Because then you might not have kids. Care to run that through me again? Kyuubi gave her a sly smirk. Will you marry me? Pervert. Kyuubi found himself flung through the door of the Hokage office. Ow. Hey, how am I a perv? I asked you. I didn't leer, I had no lecherous thoughts, I don't just wanna get you into bed. I happen to like strong women and you're sorta turning me on right about now, the redhead stated as a tickle of blood began to fall down his nose. Tsunade only began to grow even more flushed. Run before I send you on Knuckle Sandwich Airlines back to Yumi. How about next week? I'll cook. I owned a restaurant back in Yumi a while ago. Gave it to a friend of mine. I cook a mean dinner. Shizune suppressed a giggle at his antics. Here was an ex-demon, probably thousands of years old, flirting with the Hokage of Konoha. An ironic thing about it was that neither of them looked their natural age. Instead they looked like they were in their early 20s. It was sort of like watching a soap opera or what she had heard from Kakashi, reading Icha Icha out loud for them all to hear in their house. Why has the Kyuubi not taken you or Haku away from Konoha yet? Probably just wants to flirt with Tsunade. Plus I promised not to leave. And so far there is only one promise I have never and will never keep and I'd like to keep it that way. Naruto and Gaara continued to eat the cake set out in front of them. Temari is an excellent cook, Naruto noted. Gaara shook his head. No. It is my nephew, Fuijin and his sister Fuuko, who have the culinary arts in our family. Temari just likes to take credit for it. Naruto took another bite of cake. You know what's ironic? Gaara shook his head. No, what? That your title, Kazukiage, is just like your sister's marriage. She's a wind user married to a shadow user. They could have named their kids either that or if they had one just name it Kazukiage and say it was the combination of their styles. Gaara sweat dropped. You have grown random in your years of exile. Naruto the blonde grinned cheekily. Well, it's true. Anyway, another ironic thing is, Gaara moaned as Naruto continued speaking. Shikamaru got what he wanted. A wife, granted she's not plain like he wanted, but he's got 2 kids, twins, 1 boy, 1 girl, now all he has to do is grow old and die in bed before he finally accomplishes his dream. Gaara simply rolled his eyes. He and Naruto were dressed in nightwear now and Naruto had let his hair fall down into its messy form. Naruto had almost had a heart attack seeing Gaara in red night pants and a black t-shirt with cookie printed on the front. It had been hilarious at first, but he soon got used to it. So, you gonna stick around? When I win I'll come over to Suna and we'll have a party. February is Haku's birthday. Mizo's also. February 13th Naruto said to Gaara. The red-headed Kazuki slapped his forehead. Are all Jinchuriki cursed with certain things? Both our sons share a birthday. Irashchan Jimi Naruto said. Wow, we're both ostracized, we both had food fetishes, our children resemble us, our wives and our demons, there are opposites in certain areas, and they share a birthday. I think it's the same for Usagi-chan, and Yujito. Gaara shook his head. Dusan, a voice rang from the bedroom. Naruto turned to see Haku standing there in an orange frog sweet pair of PJs. I can't sleep. I keep seeing Anti-Kayu with Boss, and Naruto looked up to the sky for a second before giving off a shudder. Hold on for a minute, Haku-chan. K. When Haku had returned to the room, Naruto turned to Gaara menacingly. Leave my half of the cake alone, he said before standing up and entering the bedroom. Gaara grinned and tried to grab a slice of Naruto's half. Don't even think about it. Naruto called from the other room. Gaara flinched and retreated his finger. Gaara resigned to munching on his slice of cake before a song rang through his ears. At first it was a beautiful tune before it slipped into lyrics. When it spoke, Gaara recognized it as Naruto's voice. He stood up and walked quietly over to the door where he gazed in through the ajar door. Omen nasu nao janakutum no nakanari airashiku kairo wa shudo sunzani masugu aitayo. Nakataku nari unamun rated and wamo dekanai mietanated at junju dausha yuhado wa manjakyu. Tsuki no hikari nai michibikarnendo mo maguriao. Season no matataki kazu uranao koi no yukunaji kuni nai umareta namirakura romansu. Bachito futari de iku endokamisama kanit happy endogens I keiko mirai manadanai kubate. Bita toki no natsakashi manazashi was suranai. Ikusen man no hashi karanada wo mitsukura irguzin mo chansu nai Karai Kakata ga Sukiyo. Bashigi na Kaseki Kurosu Shitenando mo Magurio. Season no Matataki Kazu Uranao Koi no Yukunaji Kuni na Umareta Namirakura Romansu. Shinjide Iru Namirakura Romansu. Gaara listened quietly to the song and closed his eyes to the beat. Then Naruto began to sing again, only this time in a different language. It was beautiful nonetheless. He could feel the sense of a warm feeling grasping his heart. Images of stars and the moon ran through his mind, not only that, but images of Naruto and the woman he had seen in a picture of Naruto, who the blonde had pointed out had been his wife. I'm sorry I'm not honest, I can say it, well I'm dreaming, my thoughts are on the verge of overloading, I want to see you right now. Moonlight makes me want to cry at midnight, I can't call you but I'm so devoted, what should I do, me heart is a kaleidoscope, ushered by the light of the moon meet again over and over. The sparkling lights of the constellations predict the whereabouts of love born on this same planet, a miracle romance. Once again, on a weekend, we're together, a happy ending granted by the gods, the present, past, and future, I'm completely devoted to you. That time when we met, that dear look I'll never forget. Among millions of stars I'll can you coincidences becoming chances, I like this way of life. A strange miracle crosses over, we meet again over and over. The sparkling lights of the constellations predict the whereabouts of love born on this same planet, a miracle romance. Do you believe in it, a miracle romance? As the song finished, Gaara felt the sadness and sorrow in Naruto's voice. It was obvious who Naruto was singing about. His wife, Isaribi. Haku's mother. It was probably a way for the small child to get to sleep. The re-edited Kazuki even heard the smaller blonde hum the tune for the song in his sleep. He immediately sensed movement and backed away from the door. As he sat down once again, the door opened to reveal Naruto with watery eyes. They're both asleep now, he noted to Gaara. Gaara listened intently to his friend's breathing as it hitched in his throat. So what do you think of the song, Gaara? Naruto asked the re-ed. So Naruto knew he had overheard it. Probably because he noticed the door was opened and Gaara had probably heard it through there. Gaara looked down silently. It was beautiful, he replied. Isaribi and I wrote it. She wanted to have a go at writing a song, but she had a terrible singing voice, but it always made me happy. And damn, she was a good songwriter. I sang that to Haku every night after she died for a year, but we always sing it for special occasions. Sort of her legacy, you know. Haku told me he was gonna pass it down. Family heirloom and all that jazz. Gaara nodded empathically. It is sweet. You and him. That song. You could win competitions with that voice of yours, Naruto nodded. Gaara suddenly felt the urge to ask an important question. Oh no, Naruto. May I ask? How and why did Isaribi send I? Gaara asked as Naruto gazed at his cake in front of him. Naruto shook his head as he allowed a single tear to fall down his face. Ramen, he stated simply. Gaara's face screwed up into one of confusion. Ramen. Naruto looked Gaara dead straight in the eye and said, yeah, turns out the fish experiments by Orochimaru have some sort of allergic reactions to ramen. Sometimes prolonged in the case of Isa-chan, sometime instantly. If it's prolonged, then you wouldn't know, so you wouldn't stop eating ramen. We had it 2 times a week. After a couple of years, it started to show on Isaribi. It was too late by then. Haku has a watered down version. He just gets sick. But Isa-chan didn't have a chance. Since then I have vowed never to eat ramen again for Haku's sake and for Isaribi's memory. That is incredibly sappy, Naruto-sama. Naruto looked at him confounded. Naruto-sama. Where did that come from? Gaara looked Naruto in the face and said in an honest tone, you are my teacher. You saved me 3 times. Once from myself and my demon, another time from the clutches of the Takumi village, and lastly from the Akatsuki. I know others have helped, he said the last bit quickly as Naruto began to protest, but it is you who has saved me most times. I will never forget our friendship, Naruto-sama. The sound of summer drifted into the hidden village of Konoha. Children played in the playgrounds and parks, Jounin reported in to get missions and to pick up their teams. Some Chunins went to teach at the academy, others journeyed on to missions. Gaara-Subaku walked side by side his old friend Naruto, with their respective sons in front of them, reading a manga that the floating fox head of a soccer ball, Kyubi had extracted from his mouth. So that's what Orihime can do. Control time through those flowers? Mizo asked. Haku nodded. Hi, Orihime-chan is cute, she has cool powers like anti-Kaiju, and she's like Tsunade. She's always happy unless someone she loves is hurt. And Tsunade once said he liked her chest for some reason. Naruto and Gaara froze upon hearing this. It wasn't something you should spread about, especially with several dangerous kunoichis in the vicinity. Haku, don't say that again in public, okay? Naruto told his son, slightly shivering under the fear-inducing glares he was receiving from women on the street who had overheard what Naruto thought about the character. After that the four hurried to reach the Hokage's office where they were supposed to meet up with Tsunade and other officials visiting Konoha no Sado. Haku and Mizo had no idea why they were going so fast to reach the Hokage tower. Within the space of 5 minutes the four found themselves outside one of the meeting rooms with Naru, Obito and other children waiting outside, with a Jounin Naruto recognized as Konohamaru. The grandson of the third Hokage gave the blonde and Riti a glare before speaking. Hokage-sama waits you inside. Please leave you children out here. Naruto turned to Mizo and Haku. Okay, you two. Kyubi will keep an eye on things, but I need you two to protect each other if anything goes awry, okay? The two nodded as Gaara knocked on the door. Come in, a voice called from the other side. Gaara opened the door and both he and Naruto entered. A large table had been set up with many Konohanins waiting. Sakura, Sasuke, Tenten, Sai, Niji, Hinata, Ino, Shikamaru, Tamari, Shino, Kiba, Yamato, Shizune, Kakashi, Kurenai, Guy, Lee, Tsunade, Hiashi, Kaharu, Hamura, Chaozu and a kid with brown hair and red eyes, whom Naruto had never met before, who sat close to Kurenai. Guess who it is? Ah, welcome, Kazuki-sama, Naruto. Tsunade greeted. The pair sat down at the end of the table, with Gaara giving his sister a look which promised a demand for explanations. Hokage Dono, may I ask, why have you summoned both me and Naruto-san here? Gaara asked. Tsunade looked towards Naruto with a glare. We are here to persuade Naruto into joining us and forgetting the challenges. Forget it, Naruto drawled. I may have been blackmailed into going along with this, but I promise you I will not stay in this village when I win. I no longer have any ties to you people, he said, you with a large amount of distaste in his voice. Why the hell have you brought me here in the first place? Sasuke growled and stood up. Because you are the Toad Sannin, dope. We need you here, Naruto scoffed. I haven't summoned a single toad since I left 10 years ago. I think there's a time limit you can go without summoning before the contract is annulled unless you die, at least I hope. Hiashi narrowed his eyes. He may no longer be the head of the Hyuga, but he still retain a place on the council. He would leave us to die in our time of need. Why the hell are the foreigners angry anyway? Sakura shot a nervous look at Tsunade before the Hokage responded. Kusa and Oda want Outland, Kuma wants revenge, and the Hyugas buy Akugan, and Iwa wants someone's life. Naruto rolled his eyes. Well, here's a solution. Give Kuma a Hyuga to breed as a peace seal. Send the guy Iwa want for execution, and have the allies wipe Kusa and Odo off the map. Shizune shot Tsunade a nervous glance. Naruto caught this. Oh, I get it. It's someone important. Who is it? Some loser with a stick shoved up his ass. Probably Sasuke. It's not me, dope, Sasuke said with a glint in his eye. It's the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto scowled deeply. They'll have to get in line. I want a piece of the Yondaime's blood anyway. The bastard eyes widened at this statement. I hate the Yondaime, and as far as I'm concerned, why should his son be any importance to me anyway? Naruto, I know what the Yondaime did was, oh yeah, stick a demon in an orphan's gut. Then off and die, leaving the kid to get beaten and banished with 2035 assassination attempts by the time the kid was 5, most done by villagers. Yeah, now that's what I call a hero, Naruto said sarcastically. So who's the guy they want? Naruto, Sasuke added smugly. The room froze, as if time itself stopped at that moment. Naruto abruptly stood up and walked out the door. Seconds later a long scream from said blonde could be heard all the way in Suna. Loud crashes and explosions erupted from behind the door. Kakashi sweat dropped until he and everyone else in the room heard a string of swear words so long, disgusting, horrible and so physically impossible that it would make Taiya either proud or blush like a Sasuke fangirl. "That man's a father?" Temari asked as everyone else blushed at what they could hear. Naruto walked in with a face that would scare the Shinigami shitless. "There is no effing way I'm relented to that bastard. This is just another one of your tricks, Konoha scum," he yelled. Even Kakashi shrunk under his gaze, but even Hinata scowled when he insulted them and their village. Gaara just remained impassive throughout the whole thing. "He is not my father. No way in goddamn hell am I related to that son of a bitch," Naruto raged. Tsunade stood up abruptly and scowled at Naruto. "That son of a bitch is your father, Naruto. Don't forget that. I hate him. There is no way could a father give their own son up to a great demon." A demon known as Konohagakure. The room caught on to what he was saying. Kyuubi wasn't a demon, Konoha was for ostracizing a child just because some village leader put a demon monster into his stomach, then died leaving you to the mercy of people who hated the very air you breathed. "As far as I'm concerned he can rot in hell," Naruto yelled as he stood up. He made his way to the door. "Be ready for when we fight losers, cause when we do you'll all die. That much I can promise," he said before sending a death glare at Tsunade and Sasuke. "You wouldn't dare," Tsunade insisted. "Try me, bitch." Naruto was abruptly followed by Gaara before the blonde slammed the door shut. Sasuke growled and threw his glass of sake at the door, smashing it as it made contact. Tsunade frowned at Sasuke before muttering something about wasting good sake and that he would be cleaning it up. Outside, Naruto soon found Haku sitting alone with Mizo as other kids pointed at the small child who played with Kyuubi. Haku threw the fox-like soccer ball at Mizo, who caught it expertly. As soon as Naruto walked in, he was met by a gold glare from Konohamaru, who sat sharpening a kunai. Mizo. Gaara called out to his son, "Come. We're leaving. Bring Haku with you." The redhead nodded before taking Haku's hand and leading him away, Kyuubi safely tucked under the blonde's arm. As Naruto turned to leave, Konohamaru spoke up to his once idol. "Uzumaki. I want a word with you," the brown-haired Chunin stated. Naruto turned to him before speaking. "I've got a word for you. Two, in fact." Sod. Off. Had the children not been there, Konohamaru would have lunged at Naruto. As Naruto turned to leave, he came face to face with the 10-year-old from before. "I've been meaning to ask. Aren't you a bit young to be in a high-profile meeting like that?" Naruto asked as he passed. "If my cousin wants to talk to you, let him," the kid growled. Naruto snorted before walking away. "I take it you're Asuma's kid," Kurenai's to no doubt. "Word of advice. Stay out of my way. I don't hate you, but I don't like you either. Don't do what the adults are doing cause they'll end up dead," Naruto told the boy. The Sarutobi child stood unmoving as the Kazekage, his son, his best friend and his son left. Ino entered the underground hospital's mental ward. She usually came here as it was her job to help some patients to recover from certain stress. But today she was off the clock but came for a social visit. It wasn't anybody special. Just her brother. Not many people knew that the famed Inoichi Yamanaka had a love affair years before he met his wife, well they did now anyway. He had a son with Tsuchikage herself before war broke out between Iwa and Konoha. That boy grew up no better than a Jinchuriki. Hated for being half of them and half of a Konoha citizen. Everyone in Iwa knew who his father was, and it wasn't until Inoichi found records did he know either. Of course, by that time his son was in a coma from a fight with a Sharingan. The unknown Yamanaka was labeled a missing nin after his mother was assassinated and the new god Tsuchikage was put in office. 10 years from his fight with Sasuke Uchiha, Tadara Yamanaka still hadn't woken up from his coma. Ino sat with her brother every day when she wasn't on missions. Of course, nothing could stop her from trying to reach him. Although they hadn't officially met in the real world yet, Ino used her mind jutsus to enter her brother's mind and talk to him, even though he was his younger self. Sitting on a stool before the bed, Ino formed her hands into the classic hand sign for the Yamanaka mind jutsus. Seconds later her body slumped as she entered his mind.